Nice. We are live. Rashad, okay, couldn't make it today. Not sure if we should give the reason on the live, but anyways, he couldn't make it today, or maybe joins in later on. So yeah, thanks so much, Joe, Forrest, Brandon, for being here today. Let's kick it off. What are kind of your things that you wanna discuss today?
Well, I think we start with Rajat and everything going on in his life right now. Although, no, I think to be fair to Rajat, I think that he got mixed up with the time change. But we had this show at the same time last week, didn't we? And we had this conversation last week as well. But he just sent a screenshot of the invite, so he must have been living off his calendar today. So, anyways, he's stuck at Costco. I'm okay to dox him. There's probably a lot of Costco's in Canada, so we don't know which specific one that he's at, but he's stuck at a Costco. So hopefully he joins us in a bit. But lots going on in the world. I'm back in Canada today after a fun experience in the US. Nashville's not a cheap place, boys. It seems like the new bachelorette capital of the world. I think it's replaced Vegas. But good vibes there. Happy to be back and happy to be hanging out with you guys again on another Tuesday live stream.
Awesome. You woke up a sailor buying more Bitcoin, eating the world. So
he didn't get much this week.
That's crazy.
He had a low buy. Wasn't it like 1,000 Bitcoin this week?
No SDRC issuance. So it was only MSTR. And I think it's a little bit limited, right? With close to MNAV and, there's not much incentive to except raising the credit quality of the balance sheet to issue MSTR. So I think it makes a lot more sense that they do that in tandem, I would say, as they issue SDRC.
But the crazy thing is, for me, like 1,000 Bitcoin a week was the issuance rate, or like was the buying rate in the beginning of strategy. When we look back at 2021, 2020, I just saw Adam Livingston's videos where he compared how many Bitcoin per week they bought on average in those years. 1,000 was kind of the average for 2020 and 2021. Really? 2022 was like super low with like 100 a week because like they didn't have stretch and the share price was not doing that good, obviously, in the bear market. And then now it's only now that they had like 4,000, and now we look at like 1,000 Bitcoin bought in a week, and you're like, they don't do anything. And like 1,000 Bitcoin is like weak now. And that's like I call it specifically a major capital shift because I think the stretch product and what Strategy is building is so freaking amazing for the Tradfi community. The only fear I have actually with Strategy is that the Tradfi community is fighting back and saying like that Strategy product is too good. It cannot be happening. Like the banks are saying like all capital is flowing the stretch because we are offering like 1%, 5%, 3%, whatever. And so like they're fighting it. That's the only risk I see at this point with stretch, like the TradFi community fighting it.
Do you guys think that the banks will be like around, like what's the timeline on banks? Physical banks?
That's a good question. I feel like, I mean, the power law guys, I mean, a lot of, I know, Stephen and Giovanni, they're pretty convinced in the power law and it just being 10 years from now, 5-10 years from now, when the volatility gets to a point where it makes sense for insurance to come in, the banks, and, it seems like that because they have time. That's the thing that's crazy. Like they have time to do it because they can, fractional reserve, they can print, they're next to they're the quintillaires, like they're next to the seats of power. So like that's what's really wild is they know the game that's being played. I go back to like Joe Manchin from like 2014, the senator from West Virginia or whatever it was, being like, yeah, we should have shut that thing down. And when we had the chance, that was back in 2014, talking about Bitcoin.
Really?
And so people know, like Bitcoiners, we sometimes are like, oh, no one knows what's going on. It's like, oh, there's a lot of people that know what's going on. It's just everyone's got like the itchy trigger finger, but everyone's like, look, Spider-Man meme, like everyone's kind of pointing at each other. And it's like this standoff. And the banks and all these huge players, they don't have to get in right now. Like they can still buy like 10 years from now, 5 years from now, if it's at $1 million a coin or something like that, they can still buy a crap ton of Bitcoin and it'll be more than any of us combined will ever have. Right. So it's like, we see it as like, okay, like we're helping family and friends, but the big players, they're just like, dude, I'm watching. Like, I'll watch you guys play around with your Bitcoins, and then I'll come in and scoop things up, which is what we talked about yesterday too. If you want to get paid in Bitcoin, guess what? Banks, all these people, the strategies of the world, these institutional players, they're going to get in, and because if you want to be paid in Bitcoin, how are you going to be paid in Bitcoin if these guys don't have the Bitcoin? So eventually, it comes full circle. That this is playing out the way it should and it's supposed to.
There's also kind of like strategy is a real fundamental shift in the way businesses operate, because their main goal is to get as much assets as possible and to actually have that on their balance sheet. Whereas other companies, they get money in, they have obviously reserves, they have a balance sheet, but percentage wise compared to like the operating income they make, it's very low, because they go out and they have to deploy that capital. They can't just have sitting capital on their balance sheet. They have to use it. So, and that's the same with banks. Like, they might have a higher percentage of balance sheets compared to other types of businesses maybe, but they still are essentially creating rent-seeking products where they just earn interest rate that they create mortgages for. There's no assets behind that. They just printed that money in your account, and now they earn interest rate based on the loan they gave out. And like, even being like a market maker, there's no real position on that trade. They don't really have assets because they've also shorted the assets equally on the other side, and they're just arbitraging the differences of the inefficiencies to make a market. So it's fundamentally, a lot of these companies are just not thinking about the future and the reality of Bitcoin, or the reality that Bitcoin will create in the way that strategy is. And as you guys said, they have time. They'll continue this rent-seeking type of business strategy, or toll booth type strategy, because it's working. And they ultimately, I think one thing that could call into question their viability into the future is, like, they have so much infrastructure built up to participate in this current environment, and that's actually can be a detriment if things happen really quickly. You can look at like Blockbuster, for instance. Blockbuster basically went bust because they had way too much physical infrastructure, and we went digital, and streaming became good enough with broadband internet. And because they had all that infrastructure, winding that down actually took too long, and it was really expensive the entire time they were still operating. So they just took on more debt and became bloated. It's like a business bloat, right? So the question there is, like, will they be able to maneuver fast enough? They obviously have the ability to, but will they take the chance on that? Do they see the future that we see? Maybe, maybe not. But I don't lose sleep thinking about if the banks will be okay. That's for sure.
Saylor's the bank, right? He's the bank now. I was just doing the math on, I think it's around 375 billion that Buffett has cash on his balance sheet, I think, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. If Bitcoin's at $1 million a coin, that's 375,000 Bitcoin right there with cash on his balance sheet. I mean, it just goes to show you.
How could you buy that much though without running it up to like 10 million a coin?
But mathematically,
you can't.
Yeah. Right. But so mathematically though, like even say the price starts moving up, right? He's buying a ton of Bitcoin. There's a big move. Well, okay, now it's at 1.5. 1.7, 2 million. It's like, okay, he's still, you cut that in half, right? It's what, 150 or whatever that is, 175. He's able to buy the 175,000 Bitcoin. Like, if the price runs up from 1 to 2, or maybe it's at 3, okay, so he bought 100, 90,000 Bitcoin, 100,000 Bitcoin. He's still one of the 10, 100, a couple hundred biggest wallets in the world. So it just goes to show you, and that's like the whole game theory of, there's only so much to go around. And granted, not everyone knows what's going on. So I think there's a fair amount of players that know, obviously at higher levels, they see what's happening. But there's still a lot of people that don't. Let's be real. The billionaires and millionaires out there, there's still a lot of them. There's guys on their yachts in the Mediterranean. They've lived the cantillionaire life, the fiat life, and they're not paying attention. They don't care as much or whatever. They have people, their hedge fund or their family office is doing stuff for them. And those people are paid to just get them 6%, get them 10% a year, and just like ride it out, And so, yeah, I mean, you're gonna see this turnover for sure in the coming decades, where a lot of people that aren't providing value anymore, they're losing.
So that's the thing too, is like, okay, that's been their job, is to earn their clients 6 to 10% a year. And so with a product now that's 11.5%, in a common sense world, they would be extinct today, right? Right? Because that's their whole goal, is to get even 10% is a good thing. If there's another product that's available for 11.5%, they're extinct today. But the other thing too, there is like, though I agree with you, Brandon, in the sense that I don't think billionaires or cantillionaires or whatever you want to refer them to, they're fine. Like, I don't think there's anything that could happen in the future that would cause them to be under any sort of financial stress ever, no matter what. But it's the millionaires. It's the people who got to $1 million worth of assets, or a couple $1 million worth of assets, and they think that they're kind of good forever and their family's good forever. And they're just simply not. And it's the people who are in Bitcoin today, I think, that are going to replace those people. And I think that the banks, to your point there, Forrest, I think that the infrastructure that they have in place is actually going to be their detriment. And that's kind of my thesis at the end, is like, there's going to be these boutique local banks that still give credit to people, but they're holding Bitcoin, they're holding real assets. And the JP Morgans, the TD banks, just because they have so much outflows every month, I think that's actually going to be the downfall to them, is because they have these building costs, they have so many employees. I think that the Bitcoin and everything's going to outpace their burn rate. And I think that they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Because imagine like TD cutting in half, or cutting in, they just die at that point. There's no ability to like downsize that much and still be relevant. I think that at some point they just go away.
I think one thing that's really interesting about what MSTR is doing is, and people can call them a bank in some sense, but it's very clear that they aren't trying to scale vertically. They're not making it so that STRC can be held in an FDIC insured account. They're just allowing STRC to trade on the NASDAQ. So they've partnered with the NASDAQ, and then you buy it through your brokerage. And now people are using it as a savings account, right? They're using it as a savings account, but they're going through all of these other third parties that are not connected to MSTR at all, but it benefits each one of those parties. And so MSTR can be seen as and what they're doing as a benefit to the entire ecosystem around them. And it's almost like a sort of a decentralization of things as well. Because if MSTR controlled all of it, if they tried to integrate all of the ways that people get access to their products, they would fall a lot more under sort of regulation.
Traditional bank.
Exactly, traditional bank. And it would probably be a lot easier for the Tradfi systems that are going to have to end up competing against this to stifle them in some way. But they're just saying, no, this is a preferred equity. These exist. They've existed for, I don't know how long, decades, centuries maybe. And you can buy these. You can use it like a high yield savings account, but we're not saying it is one. It's just how people have decided to use it, which, yeah, keeps their hands clean, right? Like, again, they could issue a crypto coin on this, but instead they're just saying, you know what? If you're a company, if you're an individual that knows how to do that, you can create a stable coin that you can try to peg, and you can back it with STRC, and you can pay some of that yield through in a jurisdiction that allows it. That's great. That just is more demand for our product, but we're not the ones building it. And it's creating this entire ecosystem that is built around it that actually protects them from any sort of regulatory issues if they did it themselves.
And also it makes their team extremely, what's the right word, efficient. Like, they have a laser focus on one thing, which they can master with a small team. They don't need that many people to fire up Stretch for the long run, and they leave it for other people to build all the ecosystem. And it's actually very clever. I mean, you hinted at that, Forrest, already, that it's very smart if there's a whole ecosystem where a lot of companies and a lot of people are kind of working in there. If it's just one company, it's like one thing that you can just turn off. But if it's like whole ecosystem, and you can point to like, hey, there's like companies in Spain, there are companies in Asia, there are companies in America, Canada, that all like have something in there. It gets politically a lot harder to turn that whole machine off. And they're operating as a small, efficient team with not like tens of thousands, but maybe hundreds of people that operate that whole. Like, it has a lot of really interesting avenues in the long run. The question that I'm always asking: how long will they have the software business still? Like it's also doing good. Like it is a cash machine with like 500 million or something like that. But it's fun to see like those presentations at Strategy World, and I'm like, I'm not here for that. You know, and the earnings calls, you already see it where it's like only strategy, only the Bitcoin strategy. They don't even talk about the software business in the earnings call.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's hard to know exactly what's going on there. Like, they don't really publish that much information about it, and they sort of have a good quarter, bad quarter. It's kind of whatever. I imagine, like, it's still like a billion dollar business. So it's like, why would you wind down a $1 billion business that's doing fine? Like, it's still something. Like, you might as well just keep it going.
Be different if it was leaking cash or something.
Yeah. Robin, I want to get back to your initial point there where you said, I think you said something along the lines of like, did you say like the financial industry is like going to have difficulty competing with STRC? Like the first thing we said at the beginning of the call.
Oh yeah, my thing was if strategy with a Bitcoin backed product is so successful that the traditional financial space is looking at that product as a threat to their model, a threat to bonds, threats to all the things that they have been building that give people 4%, 5%, 2% yield, and they're like, hey, that has to be regulated. That cannot be that much. Like my concern there is, I don't know if it's a valid concern, that the Tradfi system and the banking system is kind of fighting against that new frontier, which is called Stretch, which is Bitcoin backed kind of thing. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, and I guess the question I wanted to, the reason I wanted to bring it back there is, I don't know the answer to this. I have theories and stuff, but what can they do about it? And also, is it really on their radar at this point? Because it is relatively small, and I think it's pretty easy to just look at it and say, where's the money for Stretch dividends coming from? Oh, it's coming from selling equity. That's previous investors paying new investors. That's a Ponzi scheme. So I think like that's a way to fight it, is just like sort of misinformation and really like mid-curve talking points there. But I don't really know what they can do about this. I don't think there's
they can do small things, maybe like MSCI inclusion, S&P 500, like the indexes, like not including them because they make the argument of, hey, it's just a Bitcoin treasury company that doesn't do anything. There, it's like very nice that they have the operating business, because it's like like, hey, like we have the operating business, you cannot exclude us because it would be very bad. And so I guess they have some tools that they could do, but I agree with you. I don't think there is something substantial that they can do, because if people want to buy it, like what will they do? And also, I don't know if this was the intention of his Middle East trip, but like there is alternative. If the USA is like turning their back on strategy, I mean, they can move to a different jurisdiction. They can do this from somewhere else. I don't think this is gonna happening, but hey, there's like, for companies, there's always alternatives. The company body can live wherever it wants to live, and so. But yeah, like that's just like one concern of like the same concern that Bitcoin that people had with Bitcoin like 5-10 years ago. It's so good, won't they fight it?
Yeah.
I think that the other part of that too is like, what can they do? I think they've been trying everything that they could do from an anti-Bitcoin perspective in terms of shorting Bitcoin, like using the futures market to try to keep the price of Bitcoin down, creating these ETFs, maybe some paper Bitcoin on top of that, not to speculate, but I think that they've been trying their best to make strategy seem illegitimate so that people kind of write it off as something that is too good to be true, so they can continue explaining to their clients why they don't have Bitcoin, why they don't have strategy. But at some point that just ends. And I think they've done all that they can do in that side of things. And so now it's like they're gonna, if they've utilized all those bullets in terms of manipulation and trying to control the narrative, once they run out of bullets there, I think it's start buying Bitcoin. And I think when that signal comes, I think it's going to be crazy. And the other part too is like, they probably see it, basic math, they're never going to be able to catch strategy. You know, I don't think that they could possibly catch strategy. I don't think that any country can catch strategy at this point either, which is a whole nother conversation. But they're going to have to bend the knee at some point, and I think that they're resisting as long as I can, but they can't do it forever.
Yeah, I agree. And this goes back to the Joe Manchin point I was making earlier with what Brian said in the comments here. The only reason Bitcoin isn't valued higher where it rightfully belongs is due to the Tradfi competition. Well, basically what you guys are all saying as well, FUDing and fighting. It's a centralized framework. And that's all they have. You know, like Manchin gave, you know, in what, 13, 12 years ago, he gave the answer right there. Like the only thing they can do is just psyops against it, left, right, and center, whether it's the protocol, it's the mempool, it's consensus, it's quantum, you name it, it's quantum, it's Epstein. I mean, like all these things over and over and over, it's all they have. Now, they're pretty darn good at it. They have 150 years of perfecting this stuff. I mean, they are, you know, this is straight from the British Crown. I mean, like this, and you know, the intelligence agencies all over the world, a couple of them in particular, are offshoots of that, if you will. So they're pretty good, and that's why they've been pretty good at doing it and keeping price down. Because the simplest answer, like I put in the comments, is generally the right answer. It's like we get into the weeds sometimes, and like no, it's just very simple. Like you look at like AI or so many things. Like think of anything out there. The technology is pretty much ballyhooed. Like it's so great by the consumer. Like people think like, oh, humans are stupid. Like no, humans are very smart. It's like AI. Like people are like taking off, like doing things with it. Why wouldn't money be the same way? Well, because of what you guys just said and what Brian said in the comments. Because it's endlessly fudded by the highest people in society. Because they know it takes power away from them. Like there's a reason that this is way harder than it seems. Now, is there cultural stuff about the dollar and it's been in rap songs for 30 years and like we all live with the dollar and we're used to it? Yes, obviously there is some of that at play. But at the same time, why would you be using a money that steals from you? Like at some point, when these things, this is why the government education system takes so long to change, because they don't want it to change. Like it's not like no one thought like, hey, we should probably do something better over here. It's because there's people at the top that don't want that to change. There's a reason these things don't change. And so the simplest answer is the right answer at the end of the day. And so I wanted to say that, but I also wanted to, I don't know if any of you guys saw, Marilyn Hoddle had a post about Stretch and what's going on here. And I tend to kind of agree with this. And we talked about this yesterday again with the Stretch stuff, and it all benefiting, whether you're in Stretch or not, or strategy or not, it doesn't matter. Like if you hold Bitcoin in self-custody, you benefit, So he had wrote for the past few weeks, I've listened to Dark Side, which I've listened to Dark in some of the spaces, and I've never really had that much of an issue with them, but they were just having some beef back and forth. Jump into spaces and outright dismiss the idea of a reflexive flywheel between Stretch, MicroStrategy, or MSTR, and Bitcoin. Not just dismiss it, but label it an obvious scam that any serious investor should recognize as destined to blow up. The core argument, the market makers plus the arbitrageurs will exploit the structure and eventually force a collapse, whether this cycle or next. Here's the problem with that take. It assumes manipulation is purely destructive. It's not. Market makers don't care about narratives. They care about extracting profit. And in a reflexive system, profit often comes from amplifying the very structure you claim they'll destroy. Zoom out. Tradfi already runs on incentive misalignment, leverage, and reflexivity. So calling this a flaw misses the point. That is the system. And here, the mechanisms are Stretch and MSTR. The trade isn't blind belief. It's a bet that the system is so structurally broken that even adversarial actors get pulled into reinforcing the flywheel before they can unwind it. So you see, your detractor might see manipulation and it looks like collapse. And, it's definitely going to collapse. Where Marilyn Hoddle saying, I see manipulation, and that leads to reflexive acceleration. So let's get specific, Dark Side. How exactly do market makers and arbitrageurs force the unwind without first driving the system harder through Stretch and MSTR? Where does the reflexivity actually break? It's crazy, but this is what we've all been talking about for so long, that Bitcoin, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you, and you are forced to come and try to, you have to run your life through Bitcoin. This non-changing, unchanging thing is going to force you to bend the knee at some point. and it's happening everywhere. This is where we were joking about the title. Major capital shift is coming. On mine, I put, Bitcoin is taking over Wall Street. This is happening in the background, and just a lot of people don't notice it yet, but it's coming. It doesn't, it's the Ayn Rand quote. You might, you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality.
I think that the part of that too for me is like people just don't if people understood Bitcoin at the level that a lot of people that we hang out with and talk to, then they would see why this is working, but they don't. They think that Bitcoin's going to be stopped at some point and somebody has the ability to shut Bitcoin off, which would in turn collapse strategy. But that's just not the case. I think the biggest risk for me is can strategy keep those Bitcoin? Because that's what the whole thing's built on. And actually, again, we shouldn't keep alluding to the conversation we had yesterday, but that was a thing is like countries go to war, they stack weapons and missiles and bombs to defend their territory and to attack others. But what strategy has to do, and kind of the thesis that we had is like, if Bitcoin ends up doing what we think it's going to do, they're going to be a superpower, whether you want to call it a country or a company or whatever that is. If Bitcoin wins, they win the whole thing. And so what do they need to do though? Nobody can just bomb strategy and take their gold and take their land and take their resources. So what strategy needs to focus on doing, just like a lot of Bitcoiners, this is what I argue for every day, is like, you just need to protect what you have. You don't have to worry about everything else or whatever's going on. You just need to protect the Bitcoin that you have, because without that, then strategy will collapse. If they somehow lose access to their Bitcoin, that's how they collapse. But it's not Wall Street shutting them down. It's not China or the US government. Nobody has the ability to do that. It's, can they protect the Bitcoin? I think that's the biggest question for me.
You know, what's interesting is that's probably the biggest question for a lot of Bitcoiners. And it's something they never address. It's not, they don't talk about how secure their Bitcoin is in their presentations. They don't talk about, we have these partners and this partner and this protocol and this multi-jurisdictional, so we have backups and backstops and nobody's ever going to get this. It's almost just given as a guarantee. It's right. Just an unwritten sort of thing that's, our Bitcoin is secure. We have that Bitcoin. You can go in and try to figure out how it's held, and people have, someone's in Fidelity, some's in Coinbase Prime, some's in a cold card under Sailor's bed. We don't know, right? We have no idea. And that is the biggest risk, or the biggest uncertainty. And I think everything should be given sort of like a probabilistic answer in your mind as an investor. So if you believe that to be a risk, you should say, what is the percentage likelihood that some of that Bitcoin does get lost, stolen, hacked, or whatever? And
what's the impact?
And what's the impact of that? Yes, of course. But it's something we can't really know unless there's probably a couple of people within that entire company that really know.
Right. I was going to say it's probably intentional.
Yeah.
Because that's what Sailors also said is why they haven't showed proof of reserves, is because they're worried about the security aspect of it.
Well, there's that chain analysis company that has mapped about 80% of MSTR's Bitcoin, and then some of it did move, and it was from custodian to custodian. And this was a while ago, and I was watching the chart after it happened, and MSTR did seem to react to that. It went down negatively, saying, MSTR was selling their Bitcoin, because that's what people speculated. And of course, that wasn't what was happening. But even just from that, it's speculation on a chain analysis. When chain analysis, a lot of it is snake oil. So it's just that alone. Like, if everybody did know their Bitcoin addresses, it would be such a thing to just, they would have to do a press release before, we're going to move Bitcoin this day at this time. Otherwise, the market would react to it. And it would complicate things a lot more than I think a lot of Bitcoiners who are upset about the proof of reserves aspect realize, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and game theory plays into that too, right? I mean, that's where it's so important, the nuance. We talk about this a lot, right? Like, the memes cut both ways. Obviously you want your Bitcoin in self-custody yourself. Bitcoin fixes this. Like, there's all these things that, like, they're good for people that are understanding and starting to learn Bitcoin. And then once you get into Bitcoin, they can hinder you. Like, never sell your sats, never sell your Bitcoin. And it's like, well, okay, but if you live on a Bitcoin standard, what are you going to do? Like, of course you have to sell your stats. Like, but someone getting into Bitcoin is not living on a Bitcoin standard. So it's great for them. There's these easy, quick memes that people can start learning, but they do change over time, and there's nuance to all of it. And the game theory plays out in the sense of, of course, there's this system where you can't print more Bitcoin. That's part of it. But at the same time, Saylor's entire life, reputation, his company, his net worth, for the most part, is now reliant on Bitcoin. So if you're doing something dumb with the coin, with the corn, then he's just hurting himself. Not to say that it can't happen, but it's also game theoretical in the sense of we're in this phase transition period, so we do have to cross from one thing to another, and that's why it is important. The proof of reserves. I know, what is it? River. I think even Bitwise does it, publishes proof of reserves. There's a few companies that do it, and but again, it's early. This is going to be the standard over time, guys. I know, Bitcoin is. Yeah, Bitcoin is the asset. It is the thing. It's what allows Stretch, Strike, all these different things. It's what allows these guys to do this, is the Bitcoin. So it's, we go down these rabbit holes because they're important, because this is where the normies are. A lot of the normies people learning, they come through these angles. If we just sat here and talked about self-custody every single day, and that's all we did, then you would never have anyone in the world understanding and learning what's going on here. So you have to meet people where they are. And I think that's why these conversations are so important.
100%. Yeah, and it leads. It's all a funnel to self-custody, more sovereignty, and the revolutionary asset that Bitcoin is. But if you only talk at that aspect, you're going to reach that echo chamber, and that's it. So I've gotten so many comments of, "Oh, stop talking about MSTR, stop talking about Stretch." It's what people are interested in right now, and it leads them to Bitcoin in some fashion, and that's kind of back to the idea too, of TradFi, how do we kill this thing? The only way, well, I don't even know how this would happen, but we live in an attention economy, and MSTR, STRC, and Bitcoin are incredibly volatile, and that breeds interest, and that breeds attention. And if you can actually see this, where Bitcoin trades sideways for 6 months, and there's no news about it, there's nobody that cares about it, the order books thin up, and that's when Bitcoin is at its weakest, is because nobody cares about it.
Yep.
But people really care about this thing in general and overall compared to other things. And that's every time these fiat influencers come out and say something bad about Bitcoin, they're actually just cementing their graves, in my opinion. They're putting themselves out of work at a certain point, because it actually just brings more interest into Bitcoin and goes against their motive. It's going to reinforce the biases of people that hate Bitcoin, and then the slightly curious people are going to get interested in Bitcoin to some degree. Then they're going to be fed more through the algorithm of Bitcoin related stuff. A couple little knowledge pieces will get in, and they'll actually change their mind, because Bitcoin, once you do understand some of these fundamental things around it, you understand that it is the best other option for a monetary network to ever exist.
I kind of came to that conclusion a couple of years ago, when I think it's similar to what you're talking about here, Forrest, in the sense of with everything happening in the 2020, 21, 2022, everything that played out in that whole time, whether it was the elections, whether it was the big illness there, or the prescription for that illness, I spent a lot of my time trying to argue on Twitter, not necessarily even argue, but if a politician or a health minister or somebody would post something, I felt the need to reply, in a good or bad. In this sense, it was a very negative way, but I came to the realization, and Jeff Booth was a big part of this realization for me, was that I was just giving them more energy. That's what the only thing that keeps them alive, good or bad, is that energy. And I think it's the same kind of thing as you were talking about that, Forrest. It was I came to a realization that the politicians themselves will never see my message. It's not like they're on Twitter and scrolling through the comments. They'll never see my message. So it's I'm just giving more energy to that account, more views. People think that they're legitimate, and it keeps that system going longer. And it's the same kind of thing with Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin doesn't read messages or care what this person on TV does. It's just Bitcoin. And whether they're saying good things or bad about it, they're still giving energy to this network, which is a good thing, I think. So you're right. Even if they're talking negatively about Bitcoin, they're still giving it energy, which is good.
100%.
It's
dangerous talking about Bitcoin. Ooh, sorry, Robin.
No, I was just saying, I think this is a point. I think we have actually made that point previously in the live stream, but it's such a true one, where your attention is going, this thing grows. So like it's very even on an individual basis, like you have to be very careful where you put your attention every single day, because if you put your attention on something that you're against that and you hate, and then the angriness in yourself grows, and this thing actually grows because you put all the attention there. That's kind of why I switched away from being active into politics to just being passive into politics, because I'm really interested in politics and I really wanna not be taxed to death in my jurisdiction. So I do pay attention to what the politicians do, but I no longer participate in conversations about it, mostly, especially with people that I know I will disagree hard with, because I know in the end of the day it will just be a heated debate that I cannot win, because even if I win, I kind of lose.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose.
Hey,
Rajat.
There he is.
Hey guys, sorry, I got confused with the timing. I think my calendar wasn't updated or something, but I'm
you
here.
get some good deals at least.
I did. I went to Costco. Great deals.
Great
Got
deals.
everything that I needed, which was great.
They're selling some cheap corn there.
Sorry.
Yeah, they're selling gold there for a while. They selling Bitcoin
Oh, that's
yet?
right.
Oh, they sell shit coins.
Yeah.
I think they some of the US Costco's do have a Bitcoin ATMs in them, like
Oh, do
ATMs
they?
that
Wow.
also sell Bitcoin. Yeah, I've seen that.
I'm curious. Do you guys, are you able to get Bitcoin gift cards or buy Bitcoin in like the Costco's or like gas stations or something like that?
Gas stations for sure. Bitcoin gift cards. There's a few companies online that will ship here, but I've never seen them in stores here. No, but yeah, there's tons of ATMs, Bitcoin ATMs, and gas stations around here for sure.
I've
It's
seen
actually
ATMs for no gift cards.
It's surprising. Like the town that I go to, like the town that's closest to me is probably about 40 or 50,000 people. And there's like every time I'm there, there's a new Bitcoin sticker on these convenience stores and gas stations and things. And it seems to be pharmacies. I walked into a pharmacy one day and there's an older guy. He was probably like 60 years old and he's just shoveling hundies into this thing. And I was like, I bet this guy thinks that like this is untraceable because it's Bitcoin. He heard that Bitcoin's like more, used by criminals. So he's just like funneling these hundreds into it. Because I asked him, I'm like, oh, a Bitcoin ATM. And he just kind of looked back at me and as if to say like, why are you paying any attention to what I'm doing here? So it seemed like a pretty suspect thing, but yeah, there's some non-KYC stuff, but they still all have cameras on them. So if you are using like a Bitcoin ATM, even if it's like non-KYC, like Bitcoin Well has here, like put a mask on. It's funny because during COVID and stuff, I was like, I'm not wearing a mask ever, but I feel like more now than ever, I want to just start wearing masks into places because there's 1,000 cameras in every place you walk into these days.
Damn. People might think that you're a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Be careful, boys.
Talk
You guys,
about
you
that.
might go to prison up there
Conspiracies.
in Canada if you were doing that.
Hey, and
Jeez.
isn't it funny how this shifted? Like in 2020, you were a conspiracy theorist if you don't have the mask on, and now you're one if you have the mask on.
Boy, oh
It's always
boy.
the pendulum
Way down
swinging.
society.
This guy has some insider information. What's
Unreal.
going on?
Re-
Some kind
Rajat-
of biohazard.
What's your thought on? So we've been talking a lot of like stretch and how it's all good for Bitcoin, everything, Rajat. So what are your thoughts just overall on everything you're seeing, and it's obviously getting a lot of attention everywhere. From we're talking about how to bring normies into Bitcoin, and it all funnels to Bitcoin. So that's kind of what we've been wrapping on here.
Oh, so actually, I don't know. This is something I was talking about in another video that I made. The concept that all roads lead to Bitcoin. So you have all these different assets that you can use to store value. So stocks, real estate, bonds, gold, pressure, whatever it is. You can use all those things to store value. After you start storing value and you kind of start figuring out what the system is, you start figuring out what counterparty risk is, you might want to start taking self-custody. But which assets can you take self-custody of? You can take self-custody of gold, you can take self-custody of Bitcoin. But let's say you can get stock certificates, you can get bearer bonds, You have your house, of course, but all those last three can be taken away from you. So the value of, let's say, the stock certificate, the value is the company that's underlying, and you don't actually have custody of that. That can be taken away from you. The company can be taxed to death. The government can say, we're going to take all ownership of this. And you could just get completely screwed over. Same thing with bearer bonds. You have the bearer bond, that's the paper that the ownership, nobody's holding it for you. But the thing is that you still have counterparty risk, where the person who owes you the money, they may not pay you back. So Bitcoin and gold, you actually hold the value. That's the thing that's important here. And then, so that's two levels. Basically, number one is the storing value. Number two is taking self-custody, getting out of the system. Number three is being able to cross borders or to escape sanctions. You can't really do that with, I mean, you can do that. You can escape sanctions with gold, but you can't really cross borders with gold. So let's say if you have $1 million worth of gold, if you're a nation state, you can get away from, let's say, American sanctions with gold, but you can't get away with American sanctions with stocks, bonds, like that. It just like, it funnels up to everything leads to Bitcoin, because it's the only thing that you can take across borders, like the only thing that you have total control over, and it doesn't have any physical appearance. It doesn't take up physical space. It can be taken anywhere in the world. You can hold it anywhere you want. You can access it from multiple places. That's the only thing, that it's the only data or information that we have that you can carry around. You can't duplicate it. I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying, but essentially, like, everything just leads into Bitcoin.
We were just talking about this with strategy, actually, in the sense of, like, we kind of played through this scenario of strategy becoming the world's superpower. Again, whether you want to call it a country or a company or whatever, an entity, the most powerful entity. If Bitcoin wins, that's going to be strategy.
Yeah.
And it is different in the sense that they don't have borders to defend. They're not stacking missiles and bombs and guns, because nobody can just blow up something and take strategy's power that they have.
Yeah.
Right. And that is, it's what you're talking about there relates to, like, individual level, in the sense that nobody can take that from you. But, like, at a higher level, it's very interesting when you have this entity that could become the next global superpower, and you cannot attack them with weapons.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I just looked it up. Like $1 million in gold would be about 15 to 17 kilograms. Like, you never get that across the border. Like no way they let you go through there. Like they will see that, and they will seize that or do something with that. And I think this is the point that still a lot of people miss. That's why, like, I love talking about strategy and stretch and all those things, but I have a very strong golden rule, and I don't know how you guys think about that, but I always want 80% plus of my wealth in Bitcoin self-custody. That's my rule. Like, I never want to have less than that in Bitcoin self-custody. Yeah, there might be some time where maybe strategy is ripping, or like Bitcoin is going down and my cash position is kind of reaching over that, but like 80% is kind of my golden rule. And with the 20% I'm playing with cash and playing with strategy, I don't do it yet, but I might play with stretch a little bit in the future. And because of that reason, because it's the only thing where I can walk across a country and I don't have anything with me, and I can access that on another side, and nobody knows it. Like, they would need to they would need to beat it out of me to get the information. And even then, I still have the choice to share it or not. Like, even if I got beaten up, I still have the choice if I give them something of information or not. And that's kind of, I know, like, most of the people in the chat is like, yeah, of course, like we've learned about Bitcoin, we know the fundamentals, but this is such a strong point of Bitcoin that is worth reiterating, because maybe in our small circle people know about it, but I guarantee you that if you go out on the street and interact with people outside of this bubble, like 99.99% of people have no clue what's going on. And I think it's worth putting out there, like, just like that very fact.
100%.
Yeah.
reiterating the basics are something all of us continue to do, and what we're always going to continue doing, because that's, again, I think the average human being reads at like a grade 4 reading level. It's just, that's life. I mean, Donald Trump, part of the reason he won 10 years ago is because he speaks at a 4th grade reading level, or whatever it is. It's grade 3, 4, 5. I forget what it is. Robert Kiyosaki, the best-selling financial author of all time. What does he do? He repeats himself a million times. It's the same 10 stories he's told for 30 plus years. There's a reason for that. It's sales and marketing persuasion. And most people, if we sat here and went down these rabbit holes, we would just lose everyone. You guys would end up losing me at some point. So that's like, that's just how life goes. So it's bringing people to this, getting the normies here. And it's very important. So we're never going to not go away from that, Robin. So it's a great point saying that.
I think from my own perspective too, like I know myself that I had to listen to probably 25 Jeff Booth interviews before I finally figured out what the hell he was talking about. And maybe I'm at a grade 4 reading level myself, but I just know that I have to hear things over and over and over again, different times of the day, different settings in my car or in the shower. It's not these aren't concepts that you just hear once and you automatically pick up. I don't anyways. And I think the reason for that is because of the programming, because of the 100 years of education. And you have to, first of all, I don't want to swear here, but change your mind on things and then start looking at things through a different lens, which is very difficult to do. Like it's not an easy thing to just, because Bitcoin is so different in every aspect of it. It's just so different than what we're used to and what we've been programmed in our own operating systems.
Nothing else works like Bitcoin. You don't get the same kind of control. You don't have the same power. And then that's what really kind of makes me think that the government couldn't have made Bitcoin, because why would they want to give us our power? And why would they give that? Like, why would they intentionally give that to us?
But the government's just people too, though. Remember that. It could have been
right.
It could have been certain people
person.
within the government department.
Right.
I mean, open sourcing it. I mean, it could have been planned to have been something different, more like a stable coin today. Yeah. It could have been more of like a surveillance tech digital money idea and got open sourced prior to it becoming that. That's always a possible theory. It really is. Like, we don't actually know how this was made. That's something that's so interesting about Bitcoin.
But every time somebody says, "Oh, it was Jeffrey Epstein," it's pedo coin, it's this, it's that. Like, they're just making shit up. Like, it's just they have this story in their mind that they just want to get out there, and they want to prove to the world that no, I was right. I was always right about Bitcoin. Then this is another reason, another way, right? So yesterday, for example, gold was down 20% from the top, more than 20%, and Peter Schiff didn't say anything. He didn't say anything about it. He kept saying, "Oh, this is a pullback. This is a pullback." But then that's what shows you, like, people have biases. They have a certain way of thinking, and they don't want to change that. Most people have already made up their mind about Bitcoin before they even read like a book about it. Listened to a podcast, watched a video about it. Like, they've already made up their mind, and they're not going to change it.
Yeah, and somebody that speaks with certainty is it's very convincing when you hear somebody say, "I absolutely know something," but they're lying. They're lying to themselves, or they're lying to you. Either they're doing it intentionally or not to try to sell you something, most likely. But I don't know how Bitcoin was made. I don't know what Bitcoin's price is going to be at any point in the future. I can only speculate based on my current knowledge, but it's always based on there's always what has to be brought up to chance, but is ultimately many different factors that are uncomprehendable. You can't figure out every butterfly effect of every world economic thing happening that creates the price action to be something at some point in the future. It's impossible. So it's easier to just chalk a part of that up to chance and say, well, I think this is most likely, but there's no way people know anything. And anybody telling you something that they know absolutely, and they don't say, hey, I was wrong about that, or I don't know for sure, they're lying to you, and they're trying to trick you, and they're trying to build confidence, probably trying to sell you something.
that's partly why like all these clickbait videos do so well, right? Because people are like, oh, 8 hours left, you have to take action, the world is about to end, you must do this, or like that's why they do so well, even compared to like this video has how many people watching? I don't even know how much, but if it was like something like, oh, Bitcoin is about to go to zero, we'd have 10 times as many viewers, because people just like they think with their emotions.
Well, uncertainty is scary, and certainty provides this clarity that alleviates questions in your mind, even if it's just a false hope of that.
It makes me think. Go ahead, Rajat, or Robin.
I just wanted to tell Rashad and also the viewers, because maybe it's a fun stat. We have over 200 people just on YouTube in the live chats, so it's fun. It feels probably every single one feels probably less, because it's like Brand's channels, it's Forrest's, Rashad's, it's mine, it's the new one that we made, BTC Mastermind. By the way, 13 people also tuned in with BTC Mastermind, which is awesome, because this is a new record to the 10 we had last time and the 3 we had the first time. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. And
we also got people on Nostr, by the way. Can't leave them out.
Let's go.
Oh, that's cool. That's all. I don't see the Nostr stats, unfortunately. They don't have an integration with StreamYard.
Yep.
Yeah, of course they don't. I was just going to say on that too, like when people are thinking through like who created, because Forrest kind of made the point of like it's really interesting, and that's how I look at it too. It doesn't scare me at all of who created Bitcoin or who was behind it, but it's interesting to me, and I think that if you think about it, because that's kind of the biggest concern. The further you get into Bitcoin is like, okay, you start looking for things that are wrong here. Well, how could I be wrong about this? And you start thinking about it, and the further I went into it and thought about it is like, there's no possible way that Bitcoin could have been created by somebody with bad intentions. There's just not, because they have no ability to control it at any aspect of it, really. So if somebody had bad intentions, they would just destroy it. Because if you understand it at a deep level, again, nobody can control it, nobody can stop it, nobody can create more of it. What would be the incentive for a bad actor to release Bitcoin in an open source way? And if you can't think of an answer to that, then it's like, okay, well, it had to have been somebody with good intentions. Then that's the only conclusion that I draw from it. And it doesn't matter who it was, but those are the two angles that I look at. It couldn't have been released by somebody with bad intentions because of its decentralization and its immutability, and it's designed to take down the system that has profited for the last 100 or thousands of years. That's its literal mission, is to destroy that system. So why would anybody from that system release it?
I don't even think it was lab leak. I'm telling you, boys.
I agree with that too.
I'm telling you, that's my theory. Sorry, Rajat. My theory is that my working hypothesis is that someone from the inside did create it, and it was leaked out. It was Wuhan lab leak because someone had a conscience. To your point, Jor, that someone said, because it's this escape valve for those at the top. Because again, like we talked about earlier, the people at the top are smart. You know, they could be lizard people, but they are not unintelligent. Let's just say that. And it's how can we perpetuate ourselves into the future, the dynasties, all these things that we all know to be true. I mean, it's pretty obvious. And you have this protocol that was discovered, and it's like, hey, we know this thing's going down, but this is our escape valve. This is our escape hatch. This is us shooting ourselves off into space on our own. And someone somewhere had a conscience, got a hold of it, and then leaked it. It's that's my Wuhan lab leak theory.
I was also thinking, just based on what Jor was saying there, it didn't come out with bad intentions. It's not like the person who came out with it said that they wanted to be rich, because at the time it was worth nothing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. When I think when Satoshi left, when was that? Like mid 2010 or something like that? End of 2010?
Yeah, after that guy was at the CIA. Was it Gavin who got invited to the CIA or something, and then Satoshi disappeared?
Do you remember what year that was?
I thought
it wasn't very late. Like it would have been 2010, I think.
It's probably like $10, $15 a coin at that point.
Not even.
2010, May 22nd was Pizza Day, in 2010. So May. So that was first time at a price. You're right. So that was, it might not even had a price.
December 2010 is when
okay. So
the final public communication.
Yeah.
Wow. So at that time, at that time, one Bitcoin was worth between 15 cents and 30 cents.
Yeah, there you go.
So even with 1 million coins,
what was even available at that time, right? I mean, there's obviously big mining rewards at that time, but still, like
but worth
they would have had what, 300K.
And there would have been no liquidity for 1 million coins on the market anyway, so it would be worth way less than that.
You would have had to find that same pizza vendor to give you a cash for it again, or to give you something for it.
Pizzas.
Yeah, get some Papa John's with it.
Yeah,
sure,
exactly.
That's about it.
But that's what it shows you. They didn't come into it with like that profit incentive, right? I was thinking, like what Jor said, to change the world. Like maybe what you're saying there, Brandon, maybe that was right. Like maybe it was leaked by accident, because the wealthy, like, how do you know that the wealthy wouldn't have released this when there were like Jor keeps saying 100,000 coins in 2039? How do you know that they wouldn't have released it in 2039 when there's 100,000 coins, and then we're just left to fight and
true,
scrap over 100,000 coins for everybody in the world? That's crazy. Wow, this is crazy synergy right here.
But by the way, I just looked it up. I just looked up. It was April 2011 where he sent this email. I've moved on to other things, and in December, I think he made his last public post in the Bitcoin dark forum. So, and it was like 50 cents to $1, the price back then. So, I think it's very clear. I think it's very clear that Satoshi had pure good intentions with Bitcoin. It's very hard to argue against that.
Yeah. And I think that if anybody's interested, and we could probably, I could spend hours talking about this, but I think if anybody's interested in the conspiracy mind of how this could have been released intentionally, knowing what's coming and knowing what the alternative is to this, because the other side of the coin here is the fiat system. It's the London bankers. It's the whatever you want to call it. They've been very clear with their plans for a very long time. Like they literally write playbooks about what they're going to do. Everybody's heard of Agenda 2020, Agenda 2030. So if you're opposed to that, which I feel like most human beings are, why wouldn't you just look at their playbook and see what they're going to do and counteract that? And there's people out there, there's a guy named G Money, and I would encourage people to go look at some of his work. G Money, he's you'd call him a Q guy. Not QAnon, but Q. And Brandon is funny because I'm in one of their Telegram groups, and I saw a video clip of you and who's that? Nolan. Because Nolan's kind of subscribed to that same theory that G Money does in a lot of ways.
He's similar. Yep.
And basically their theory is that it ties back to JFK, the executive order to remove the gold, confiscate the gold. Bitcoin was like a counter to their whole plan that they had, their agendas that they had. And it kind of fits in that, but you have to be willing to think a little bit differently, because again, all Bitcoiners hate government, but they don't realize that every government department is just made up of people. And so there are going to be leaks like this. There are going to be things that happen. So again, I could talk about this till I'm blue in the face, but the guy's name's G Money. He does a show called Rug Pull Radio every Thursday, I think. And he's got some really interesting theories of how this whole thing ties together and how none of it would have worked without Bitcoin being there.
Wait, what's his channel? I don't think
it's called, well, it's Badlands Media on Rumble. It's only on Rumble.
Oh, okay.
But it's called Rug Pull Radio.
Yeah.
And Nolan subscribes to a lot of those same theories as well, in the sense of maybe there's something much bigger happening here than we see on the news every day. That's kind of what I get from
look what's going on with Iran. It's I could make arguments in 10 different directions for what's going on over there.
Right.
I could sit down and make a cogent argument for literally 10 different directions. And the thing, it's wild because no one likes war. No sane human being likes war.
Exactly.
It's just, it just is what it is, right? But at the same time, like someone said in the chat, the software thesis in my mind is playing out right now. And Trump's just middle fingering everyone. He's like, take your fake international order and crumble up. It's abstract power, like Jason Lowery writes about. There's abstract power and there's real power. Bitcoin imposes real power on people. The whole thesis wraps up into this entire thing. And you have international order and even the Constitution, right? Or the Magna Carta, all these things. Those are abstract. If someone's not going to follow it, and then no one stands up and says, hey, you broke the Constitution, or you did X, Y, and Z, no one stands to do anything. That's how evil persists, right? Is the good people standing idly by and doing nothing. So Trump, like it, love it, hate it, is breaking that all apart and saying, hey, this 100-year transition of modern central banking and everything we're talking about here, and then the world reserve currency, we're not letting that happen. I'm not just going to like gently, slide into the ocean and let China take over. Like that's just it's not his playbook. Trump's never been that way. He that says 95% of what he says is complete just distraction, chaos, and, just trying to get people off the trail in essence. And so it's fascinating because I subscribe to the theory that they're trying to break the British crown. I really do like that. I listened to Tom Luongo. I know he's been packed on so many interviews lately, but he's one of the closest people I feel like to being over the target of what's happening and just what was happening with LIBOR and so forth the last 10 years, the taking the insurance from Lloyd's of London and the Persian Gulf, breaking the stranglehold that London had on just many of the things that the Americas have been fighting with the British crown with over the years. And then you have the opium trades with the British East India Company, Dutch East India Company, all these things happening. And it's just the phase transition is hundreds of years in the making. And it's just wild because we all get to live through it. And it's almost hard. It's so hard to see. But to your point, that could all be playing out in the background. And what are you going to do? You can't go out and say to the people, oh, this is what's happening. I'm breaking the Lloyd's of London, insurance racket. I'm breaking, I'm doing this and that. Like you can't do that. So it's like you're playing this 4D chess. And I know people will, scream and cry about that. And then you have like the Judge Napolitanos of the world, who I really respect. You watch a lot of people on YouTube, the different professors and this and that, and they're just mind reading Trump the entire time. Like, I respect what you're saying. And like, of course, we don't want collateral damage in civilians and you don't want people dying in general. But at the end of the day, like I don't see people crying and whining about what's happened for the last 5,000 years of like, we stand on the shoulders of war after war after war. And I don't see someone saying, well, you know what, I can't use this invention or that discovery or that medicine because it was used in Dachau. No one's saying that. And 5 years from now, 10, 20 years from now, no one will look back and be like, oh, this is a terrible thing. It's just, that's how life works. And because we have social media, because we see it now day to day, you see the evils of war. Yeah. Is it terrible? Yes. But it's fascinating. But I do subscribe to the theory that they're trying to break the London racket basically. And it's all starting to come apart right now.
What is the London racket?
We might need a couple hours just to explain it.
Well, it's just London's been the World Bank. They've been the ones who've orchestrated the fiat system for how long? Like the crown.
Like the monarchy?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Is it like the monarchy? Like that?
Yeah. It's the banking system, the banking cartels, everything. The Rothschild Bank and the Queen. I've got a couple of books about it. It's fascinating, but like it goes back to the Freemasons and all these things that have been going on for hundreds of years and trying to infiltrate the Americas. Pissed about losing the Revolutionary War and constant, multiple wars. People don't even realize like there was multiple wars fought in America about Britain losing the Americas, and so it's never ended. And then it was like, okay, how can we do it through the central banking system? And there's the third central bank we've had now for 112, 113 years. It's the third one, and so this war has been never ending. And so they've been controlling whether it's the oil, energy, and that's what was going on to do with the whole Israel, just Israel in general, and Iran and everyone fighting over there through religious, so like you can make religious arguments, but a lot of this was set up through London. And so anyway, you could sit here and talk about it for hours, but it's to your point, whoever said Jor, I think there's so much going on behind the scenes. We've never seen someone step up and be like, yeah, I'm taking this on. And JFK, trying to bring this full circle now, JFK was the last one that was for war in essence when he got elected, and then realized, the intelligence agencies, a lot of it started through the Bank of London and what was going on there and MI6, etc. Well, you have this process of him seeing, we were screwed over by our intelligence agencies. I got a bunch of bad intel in the Bay of Pigs and they lied to me. And then he fought with the intelligence agency for 2 years. And then he ended up trying to pull everyone out of Vietnam because he realized there was 10,000 guys there or whatever it was. And then 2 months later, he was dead. This was August of 63. And then a couple months later, he was gone. And then all of a sudden, right after JFK is gone, then you have Lyndon Johnson come in and immediately we have false flag. We're going into Vietnam. They do Bank Secrecy Act, KYC, AML starts, all this stuff. So the whole racket, it was really got its real grips, whatever it was, 68, 80 years ago. So It's destroying all that.
Could you guys think of like the game theory here where the US is trying to attack London, London's trying to keep its power, and then out of nowhere, London's like, we're not gonna play this game. We don't want to get screwed over again. We're just gonna start stacking as much Bitcoin as we can. Like that would break
That'd be the
everybody's
ultimate.
brains. That would be insane because
That'd be insane.
like think about it. If they get to that point where let's say they get to 5 million Bitcoin.
Could they though? That's the thing.
Why wouldn't they be able to?
Who's going to sell them 5 million Bitcoin?
People
Price
are
goes
selling
up.
strategy like 20,000 Bitcoin a week.
It's quite a bit though.
There's
But
a
that's a
lot of
lot.
Bitcoin. There's a lot of Bitcoin available. I think there's a like
Well,
even
is there
as the
though?
price
Like,
goes
At
up.
the right price.
Keep in mind,
Yeah.
like they still have a bunch of people just brainwashed into believing that pounds and euros are so valuable, right? Like all these currencies, so they can just like they have all these assets, they can borrow against them. They can, and that's what I think. That's what I think will happen, right? I think the elite are gonna at some point, like this sounds crazy. I think the elite at some point is gonna pump the price up, and they're gonna get like the most hardcore Bitcoiners to sell because they're gonna think, oh yeah, it's overvalued. And it's never going to come back to these prices again. It's never going to go back to it because you can just create as many dollars as you want to. People are going to think, it's at the top of the power law. It's at the top of this or the top of that. It just feels like it feels like I don't know. People are too confident. People just think that okay, they know, and like that, like back to what we were saying, like these countries, they could easily just skyrocket the price and then never let it come back again, never sell that Bitcoin again. Because if they want 5 million Bitcoin, that's how they get it. They get people to sell.
But even if they somehow got to 5 million Bitcoin, like I don't think that that's a possibility. But even if they did, what power do they have there? Like they might retain a bit of their power, but if you consider like the last 100 or however many years, they would have had the equivalent of like 90, let's say 20 million Bitcoin. Like that's the equivalent of the power that they've had through the fiat system that they've controlled.
And
right?
they've pretty much controlled
Well, the price would go up.
They have they have like an army of slaves. They
No, but
control everything, right?
what would they
They
do?
have,
They
like,
would still have
colonial
less influence
extraction
than
as
they do
well.
today, even if they somehow got to 5 million Bitcoin.
Well, this is, but again, it's like the price will just go up, right? To you guys' point, like, everyone has their price. This is how the finite asset, this is how it happens, right? It goes from 1 million and then all of a sudden it's 3 million and then it's 6 million and then it's 12 million. And guess what? So at some point, there's going to be people that are like, sure, like I'll sell it for $12 million of Bitcoin. And it doesn't matter. I mean, it's going to go up into the right forever because it'll just be higher highs, higher lows the entire time. Like, will it come back down again? You hit a saturation point. Oh yeah. But then it gets to 15 million, 20 million. And guess what? They're going to have a few more sellers. And so this will just play out until all the currencies just collapse into themselves. It's the Bitcoin black hole.
Yeah. And like, that's how they bring those coins into the, and like even 5 million for the richest entity in the world, 5 million coins is probably not even enough. They probably still feel like, we're too late. We need more. We need to screw you guys over even more. And like, just keep in mind, 99% of the world, like even a lot of Bitcoiners are still fiat minded. They still just want fiat, right? And that's why they're selling right now. Otherwise, they wouldn't be selling. If Bitcoiners figured out what Bitcoin, if the people who hold Bitcoin figured out what Bitcoin was and they understood that, okay, this thing has an infinite value, they wouldn't be selling Bitcoin the way that they are right now. Right. So I think that's the power, Joel. I think I get what your question was. Like they've already had power for like 95% of all the wealth in the world. I think is that where you're
That's
trying to say?
exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like they're just gonna try to make our lives even harder.
But it's an interesting question of like how many Bitcoin strategy you can get to.
Yeah.
Like London cannot get 5 million Bitcoin right now. I think that's what I'm trying to say is like, what do they have? Like they don't have any sort of military.
I see what you're
saying. They have like a group of people who's willing to accept pounds and they can keep issuing them into the market and they can start printing money to buy Bitcoin, right? And people will continue to save in that money because they're just going to think, oh, I get more dollars now. And eventually prices will come back down. Like people still believe that. They still believe, oh, eventually prices will come back down. If I save dollars, when those prices come down, I'll be able to buy more things. Like that's actually how people believe. Like
you're talking the same thing, but one of you is talking from the demand side and one other one's talking from the supply side. So like just like to Jor, to like your point, like, they don't have any assets to sell. Like they don't have Her Majesty's Navy anymore. It's not like what it used to be, right? It's like what assets are you selling to get that amount of Bitcoin? Well, it just stops because, like, to Rajat's point, they can just keep printing currency until there's civil war going on. Like until people stand up and say, "Hey, what in Sam hell is going on?" That's the stop. That's the end. Like that's the point. The hyperinflation, the loss of confidence, whatever. I think that's the end game eventually for all of these currencies, where they can keep doing the shenanigans until someone calls the bluff. In essence, whether it's the people or another nation goes to war with them, basically.
Yeah,
that'd be like a self-inflicted, like self-destruction, though, to do that to your nation. There's like people will say like, oh, like, the Federal Reserve, or there's that Neil Kashkari interview, like we have unlimited money in the central bank or whatever, unlimited money. That's not true. They have a fiat money printer, but there's consequences to printing money, and they know there's consequences to it.
Yep.
And that's why they do it slowly, strategically. Yes. They make excuses for it. They'll change how certain money is accounted for, like what classifies as M2, what doesn't, and then they'll hide a bunch of printing within there. There's a reason they're doing this, and it's because they want to keep the fiat system on life support. They don't want to pull the plug. They don't want hyperinflation because it causes chaos, and it causes mistrust, and it causes lower tax receipts, demand destruction, civil war, unrest, no power extending beyond their borders, no ability to control military. There's all sorts of problems that come from printing. So yes, my theory is, the Bank of England, the people there, they could stack Bitcoin, they could print the pound, but there's a certain they sort of have to do it in a clandestine type way, which is like the theory of like, what nation states out there are buying Bitcoin that we have no idea, and it's been something we've speculated on for so long, and we just say, oh, there has to be this, game theory suggests they have to be stacking Bitcoin. I still think they are, but again, they kind of have to do it in this way where they can't be obvious about it. And last week we talked about Boris Johnson, ex Prime Minister of the UK, talking negatively about Bitcoin publicly. These are the kind of signals I look for when fiat influencers really say something negative about something. They're talking the exact opposite of their book, right? When Jason Calacanis talks about how bad MSTR is, it's because he wants Bitcoiners to push his message. He wants all the engagement that he knows Bitcoiners will give him because he's talking shit about MSTR and Bitcoin. And those will push the posts of him shilling his shitcoin, TAO or whatever. He knows that. He's using people, right? And he's talking the opposite of his book. If you look into that guy, his wife, the best investment his family ever made was in Bitcoin. He is rich because of it. He's talking the opposite of his book because he wants in on the fiat money printer that is cryptocurrency, right? That's a fiat money printer for yourself and the foundation that creates it. It's fiat reinvented. That's what that guy's trying to do. He's trying to scam people. And that's what all these people are trying to do. Like the England being able to print the pound, that's a scam. That's a scam, and they're trying to get something real. And if it's not gold, it's Bitcoin.
They scam people by getting them to believe. Like, how long did it take for us to get brainwashed into thinking that pieces of paper are real?
Yeah.
A lot of people still think that they are. A lot of people still think that they're backed by gold.
Yeah.
I was so shocked when I learned that people actually believed, especially older people believed that. And I had uncles coming up to me like, oh, but like the euro is also backed by gold. I'm like, it never was. Like, if you're from the US and you have that rich history, like, okay, maybe you missed the point
missed
where
a couple news
cycles. The public news. But with the euro, like, it never was like it was never like that. How the heck can you believe that?
So true.
And this is kind of my theory of, like, when the new administration took over in 2024, Bitcoin's price shot up because there was all this talk of a strategic reserve. The government was going to start getting to 1 million coins. That was kind of their idea. And it never happened. But when you think about it, and kind of what we're talking about here is, like, the second that the US starts trading their dollars for Bitcoin, like if they start buying Bitcoin, that means they're trading their dollars for Bitcoin. That is the biggest signal you could have in the market that Bitcoin's worth much more than our currency, so much the fact that we're trading it for Bitcoin. That's the end of the US dollar, in my opinion. And I think that if the UK started doing that, that would be the end of the pound. If they started saying, hey, we're buying Bitcoin here, our dollar's worth nothing, that's a signal to the world. And then it just blows up in their face because price runs up, their dollar goes to nothing. And that's why I think that the American administration has actually been doing things behind the scenes in the sense of like mining, partnerships with miners, things like that, where they can still accumulate like a long-term flow of Bitcoin without signaling to the market and losing all of their abstract power, essentially.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's it's a bimetallism. Like it's Gresham's law. You're having this world where it's, even the stable coins, like someone just said it earlier, Bitcoin is actually furthering or pushing dollar dominance to a degree. And I know that's been one of the things for years. People have said, like even Larry Fink, like, oh, Bitcoin's a trade of fear, and Bitcoin wouldn't exist if the government, they weren't printing the currency. And it's like, yeah, it's like, did you just hear what you said though? Like they are always going to do that, and that's what they are currently doing now. Like, is that trend going to stop at some point? No. And all of human history for thousands of years, that's never showed us. And so there's this world that, like, where people that come against Bitcoin, they always want it both ways. Where it's like, Donald Trump's in. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't really move the market. But then, like, some little guy sitting here who, no one follows him online, and he could talk to you for 6 hours. And you're like, yeah, but like, you're a nobody though. It's like, right. People that don't have the ears to hear and the eyes to see, they'll just find any excuse. It goes back to earlier, like we were saying, like humans are path of least resistance. We don't like change. We want a routine, and any like hard work that goes, like, you're like, no, it's fine. I heard one negative thing from Terrence Howard, some actor. Yes, like that's exactly what I thought. So I'm going to shut my mind off. I don't have to do any work. But you could have Terrence Howard talk for 7 hours about Bitcoin, and they'd be like, yeah, I don't know, buddy. You're like, you're just an actor though. It's like, wait, what is happening? So like Gresham's like, we're going to go through this again. It's this phase transition where people are like, well, all the coins, the sailors got a lot. These companies like, oh, there's these whales, they got a lot. It's not really fair. It's like, well, is it fair that some people have Malibu real estate or Miami real estate or, some places in Scotland or something like that, like the greatest golf courses in the world or something? And my family doesn't have that. Like they weren't around for that. It's like, is that fair? It's like the only fair way to do this is either you have to use your previous time and energy, your fiat that you have now, or you've got to mine it or work for it. There's no other way to do it. What are you going to do? Pre-mine it like XRP? You're going to pre-mine it like the US dollar and be a cantillionaire? Like there's no other way to do it. It was done, like you guys said earlier, they had no price. Like it had to be from a place of goodness that it was created somewhere, no matter who did it, because it had no price. There was no guarantee of riches. It was nothing. And the coins have never moved either on top of all that. So it's just the bimetallism, the Gresham's law, these things are going to play out. And could it extend dollar dominance a little bit, or has it? Probably, maybe, who knows? Because some of the capital got sucked into that system. And so it's like, it's hiding a little bit. There's a lot of people that don't understand Bitcoin. They don't know it. So, but do we want also a Mad Max, complete collapse? I'm guessing a lot of Bitcoiners want this world where we can nicely get off the Titanic before it goes completely under. We can get off as many people as possible into those life rafts. And so that's the game being played out. Is it frustrating on a day-to-day basis? Yeah, I mean, it is, obviously, when you see dumb things happening around the world. But the other way is just complete collapse. Like we were saying, printing into oblivion, the civil unrest, hyperinflation. We don't want those things to happen. And hopefully they don't. And because we have the life raft now. So anyway, the bimetallism thing, this is going to play out, I think, for a while. Governments are going to have these currencies. They're going to be doing these. It's like government food stamps, UBIs is going to be the one path. And then you're going to have Bitcoin. And what do we think people are going to choose? The voluntary open source protocol that we're all over here saying, hey, look how great life is? Or are people going to keep choosing CBDCs and slavery? Maybe for a while, idiocracy might happen for a little bit, but eventually humans see it. They see the mirror. They're looking at it, they're like, why am I doing this exactly? So it takes time. It's patience.
That's pain too, right? Like these people have to reach a certain level of pain. And if you live in the world of idiocracy, I mean, you'll end up thirsty because you're just drinking too much electrolytes, right? That's what that whole movie's about, basically, at the end of the day. You need a certain level of pain. So how that happens, how that plays out, I mean, I'm a bit of an accelerationist, to be honest, but yeah, Mad Max, that would look terrible. So, hopefully we do have a smooth transition, but all we can do is look out as an individual and do what's best for us. And it's so clear that because of game theory that you benefit from positioning yourself in a safety tool like Bitcoin is.
Yeah, and the people that are obsessed with, I don't know if it's in America also like that. I see it more, I think, in Germany, that say like, hey, I want to spend my Bitcoin. Like, we should spend and replace the Bitcoin. We should not like leave it to the fiat system. And I kind of disagree. Like, I feel like we will be able to spend our Bitcoin anyways. It's just not the right time right now. Like the phase of Bitcoin being a medium of exchange, being like where you can just go into any store and you can tap with Bitcoin Lightning wallets, and you can have some app on top of that way your Bitcoin somehow gets spent. I think this time will come. It just takes time, and we are still, I think we're in the early phases of store of value. I don't know if this is a popular opinion, probably in this panel it is, but like we're in the very early phases of this price discovery, of discovering what Bitcoin actually is, the store of value phase. And I'm shocked that we already have so much medium of exchange side adoption, and so many people already, like I can go to a few restaurants here in Vienna in the middle of the European Union and spend Bitcoin with a Lightning wallet directly. Like that is freaking awesome that we already have that right now. And imagine how much more this will be happening once more people have a higher exposure to Bitcoin. People will demand it as the salary. People will demand it as how they can pay with stuff. And maybe it's not directly Bitcoin. Maybe it's some layer on top of that. Maybe it's some stable coin that's backed with Bitcoin somehow. I don't know exactly where we end up, but I think Bitcoin will be the foundation of all the financial things that we will be doing in the future anyway. So I don't know.
Well, one thing that I was thinking about when you said that is I don't think it's going to be the people who have Bitcoin that are going to want, or that are going to change this, because why would you ever want to get rid of your Bitcoin? I think it's going to have to be the demand side. So let's say people offering services and goods for Bitcoin, they're going to be the ones who change everything. Because like if I have Bitcoin and somebody wants fiat, then I'll give them fiat. I'm not going to force them to take my Bitcoin, right? They have to basically force the wealthiest people in the world to part with their Bitcoin. And how do they do that? The only way they can do that is to say, I'm not accepting anything other than Bitcoin. And they have to build these skills that let them create value that is, there's no substitute. So number one, you're so valuable. And number two, you want Bitcoin. You're so valuable that you can't be replaced. So if somebody needs to pay you, they have to pay you with Bitcoin, and there's nothing else that you're willing to accept. I think that's what gets Bitcoin really going in the retail public and general.
But that's then the other side is the next logical step. Like I agree with you. Like it's the first step is like, hey, I want to be paid in Bitcoin because I don't want to give 1% to exchanges and all of that. But once you get paid in Bitcoin, just from my personal experience, I want to spend my Bitcoin also, because otherwise I need to cover my fiat bills, and I have to again pay whatever exchange you're using 1% fee, and on the other side it doesn't make any difference at that point. So it's like once people know this is the most prestigious asset ever, they want to get demanded like, hey, I want to get paid in Bitcoin. And then once you get paid in Bitcoin, you're like, oh, like how inconvenient that I have to get out of this Bitcoin system just because there are some vendors that don't accept it. And this is where kind of the whole flywheel of Bitcoin as a medium exchange unit of account comes in, where people want to then also pay in Bitcoin. And then the next logical step, the final step, is just like, hey, I'm using Bitcoin all day long. I'm not touching even dollars or fiat or any fiat tokens. I'm just measuring my wealth now in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an ethical side to it as well, right? Participating in the Bitcoin network and not participating in the fiat system. Like the more we participate in the fiat system, the more we give it life. And I think that is largely driven a large part of any medium of exchange that we have now, because there are so many frictions for it to make sense to do. Tax, again, using people accepting bad money and being able to save good money. So there's a lot of things going against using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange in a logical sense. So I think the vast majority of what's driven what we have now with medium of exchange is ethics, is people saying, I want to participate in Bitcoin. I want to leave my Bitcoin with somebody else intentionally so their balance grows. I can spend and replace whatever on the back end. But it is sort of an opt out of the fiat system and not breathing life into the fiat system anymore. It's going to be a whole combination of things that continues to push medium of exchange.
I think that people kind of overthink it too, in the sense of like it's going to be too hard for people to like get Bitcoin and pay in Bitcoin, but it's really not. Like I'll give 2 examples here. So the first one is that we got a quarter of a cow here last week, and I went to pick it up, and he's like, I said, how much is it? And he told me, and I said, okay, well, would you take debit card, credit card? He's like, cash only. So he lives about 30 miles from here. So now I have to go to the ATM, take out cash, explain to the bank why I'm taking out cash, drive back there, pay him, versus if it was just Bitcoin, I could figure out how to do that as opposed to going through that whole process and paying him in Bitcoin. But to the point here is that if you have a product like meat, like something that people really want, you can charge whatever you want and you can ask to be paid in whatever you want. And I think that's where it's all going to be kind of driven by. And even going back to our conversation about G Money, I was listening to his story about how he got into Bitcoin, where he wanted this specific bottle of whiskey. He found it online, and the retailer was only accepting Bitcoin for that bottle of whiskey. And that's how he got into Bitcoin, because he really wanted that bottle of whiskey. So to Rajat's point there is like, if you make something that's really desirable to people, you can charge whatever you want. And people aren't stupid. Why would I take fiat? Not because it's worthless, but if I want to store it in Bitcoin, why would I be the one who has to convert it? Why would I have to KYC myself and take that fiat and turn it into Bitcoin? Why wouldn't I just take Bitcoin? Yeah. And imagine when that happens. That's a whole nother, story. But I think Square Merchant, the terminals are all going to turn into accept Bitcoin automatically in April. So that'll be a whole nother driver of, demand for people being able to use their Bitcoin if they want to.
But I think that's where this comes in. So like, this is so important, right? The stuff that we're making, like I'm really proud of the work that I'm doing, because I know that in like 10 years, the people who have watched my channel, a lot of people, they meet with me, and I know they meet with you guys as well. A lot of people meet with me and they're like, you're the first person who has made Bitcoin make sense to me. And I know that in like 10 years, these people are going to be extremely wealthy, and they're going to have businesses, and they're going to be willing to spend their Bitcoin. And I think that's what creates that circular economy, right? It's like there was a comment from Florida Swamp Monkey, where he said that he he said that he knew the dollar. Where was this comment? What was it? He knew about the dollar since he was like 2 or 3, which is crazy, because that just shows you like it took decades to get us brainwashed enough where our parents are promoting the dollar to us. Like, who else would have promoted? Who else would have told him about? Oh, his comment was, "I knew what a dollar was before I knew the alphabet. That was for sure. Whatever but basically he knew what the dollar was before he knew the ABCs. Like, that's crazy, right? And think about that. It took decades of just brainwashing and hammering it into our parents' brains, our grandparents' brains, their parents' brains, right? Like, just getting us to believe that we need to use pieces of paper to get to this point where Florida Swamp Monkey is also just thinking about dollars, right? And that's the first thing he knows. He knows about it because it's like word of mouth, right? Where it works. So you get one group of people to figure it out, and then they find it valuable, and then they tell other people about it, and they tell other people about it, and at some point it's like you're in a pyramid scheme, and your parents are the ones who are pushing you into it. Like that's insane. Your parents are just like putting you into this Ponzi scheme, and they don't even realize it.
Well, your whole environment is like, that's the whole thing, is like you become your environment. And so when your parents are talking about dollars, and the school's talking about dollars, and your friends are talking about dollars, and nobody's asking any questions, those are the people that you hang out with. How would you ever know anything else? I guess before the internet too, it's a little bit easier now for people, but before the internet, that's literally what people were. Is they were just a culmination of all the people in their life and their ideology, which is dollars.
It also goes to show just how important money is in the world if you learn about it that young, right? There's some sort of like it's a tool for exchanging, and and people are willing to accept it. It's not consumed, right? There's all these characteristics of money, but it's so fundamental to life to have this medium of exchange and a store of value as well into the future. That a 2-year-old knows what a dollar is, knows that this is the thing we go and use to buy whatever I want, or my parents go and use it to buy whatever I want. And then people just say, what is the value? Like people that are anti-Bitcoin, they'll say, oh, it doesn't have any cash flows. It has no intrinsic value. I can't hold it. It's not tangible like gold is. It's money. It's the thing that a 2 and a 3-year-old learns about and needs to be able to get things. It's not supposed to have yield. It's not supposed to have cash flow. It's not supposed to have any other properties except the monetization premium that it has. Bitcoin is 100% monetization premium, right? That's all it is. And it's one of the most important things that we have in the entire world is having money that we can use and we can facilitate trade with.
Yeah, he responded. He said, "No quarter, no bubble gum." Like that's the way that you think of it, right? As a kid, you're like, "Oh, I can exchange this thing for this thing," and then it just like it builds in your mind where, okay, I'm going to have to go to a job. I'm going to have to go to school, and I'm going to have to learn all these things to go to a job so that I can get more dollars and I can buy more bubble gums or whatever you want to buy at that age. Like, that's the way that we're built to think this way. And there was this video that I saw today. The guy was talking about how we're asked at a young age, what do you want to be? They don't really care about who you want, like who you are. They don't care about who you are as an individual, how you think. All they care about is how you're going to produce labor in the world. And that's wild. Like we're teaching like our 1-year-olds, like the only value that you have is to work. Right, 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, whatever age they start learning it, they start understanding. We're teaching them like the only value you have is to produce more value for the rich people.
Cash rules everything around me. That's all it is.
But that's changing now. Like Brandon's talked about it before, but like Forrest, Robin, Brandon, you guys have kids. They're not going to be learning about dollars. They're going to be speaking in sats. And just imagine what the world looks like when, even if it's just a small subset for the next decade, it's just going to keep turning on around the world. Like this flame is just going to keep spreading across the world because of these conversations and because you guys are having kids and you're speaking a different language, because that's what Bitcoin is. It's a language. And so when you're taught that language at a very early age, that shapes your whole life. And so that I think that people need to think about Bitcoin as a language, because think about how long it would take you to learn French or German or whatever. Like it would take me a couple of years. Bitcoin's a different language. And so it's not a podcast somebody can listen to. It's not a video. It's just seeing the need and then like taking the time to learn. And it takes time. So I think that people just got to be patient and understand that there is change happening. It's just not something that's right in front of our eyes every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true. I was just watching a video. I don't know who it was now, but someone just shared it and they were like, this video lives rent free in my head still. And then someone else had reposted it. So I saw it a couple down, but it was just a guy talking on a pod about the effect that money has, like when you don't understand that language of money. And it's understanding that language, like we talked about before, that gauntlet you have to go through, that Bitcoiners go through, understanding the properties of money, being rug pulled, the experiences, wisdom you gain in your life that lead you to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has the ultimate properties. So all of us, what we've experienced leads us to that humility, the lack of ego that lead you to there. Because the funny thing is, like I was a real estate guy and gold and silver guy, and for 10 years, and I had to shed those things in order to really understand and grasp Bitcoin. And so you just don't wake up one day with just having it all of a sudden. Like you have to put in the work to it. Do the work now or get work later. Like you're going to have Bitcoin one way or another. It's just, are you going to get it now when it's much easier, or are you going to do it later when you do it? So I'm tangenting, but he was talking about this video, and we just don't understand the consequences of not understanding that language, of having the fiat currencies, being rug pulled every single day by 1, 2, 5, 10% inflation every single day. And he was talking about his family growing up and the fights his parents would have over money, things of that nature. And then he ended up getting wealthy through Bitcoin. And he's like, yeah, I've been able to, long story short, like change my family, like help my family out, all this stuff. And he's like, what's really remarkable though is not that, because most people stop there. He's like, literally my parents' personalities have like changed. Like they're not worrying about like retiring. Like they are different people now. Like I get to actually have relationships with them, or like people around me, where instead of just being on the hamster wheel and fighting about money, and I never get to see them, we don't get to do things together, throw a ball out in the yard, go play some hockey, some soccer, football, whatever it is. No, I couldn't do that with my dad. So now I'm like doing these things with my dad, and I see a whole different side, and I actually have a relationship with him now. And their personalities are literally different than when I was growing up. And he's like, I kind of was really pissed off because I felt like I was just robbed for like 30 years of my life, or whatever the time frame was. Like the fiat robs that from you, not just, the wealth aspect or something like that, but the wealth is your time and energy. So it literally sucks your time and energy and turns people, different into different people, and makes you do different things. The incentives of the system are such that it divides people against each other just by its inherent nature of lacking the right qualities of money. So it's so deep and so profound, but you don't think about this in the existing system. To, the point of what we're all saying, we've been talking about, what we talked about for years, is Bitcoin brings out, aligns incentives, which is the most important part, puts people on the same side of the table, and helps you become the person you should be, instead of just being on the hamster wheel. I have 3 jobs, I'm working overtime, I have my 4th wife because we keep fighting about money, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is what we're hoping to change going forward. And it's not some moon boy shit. It's completely altering the incentives and reorienting society.
It's handicapping society, the fiat system. It's robbing people's time and energy, as you stated, which I describe as evil. I describe something that does that as evil.
Yep.
I think it's horrible. I think it's the worst thing that we've ever seen. There's all sorts of things that debilitate people. I'm reading a book called Healing Back Pain, and it talks about how think of all the people that have these back issues where they live completely different lives because of it. They don't go and see their they don't play sports, they can't do all these things, and that's actually reducing the amount of value they're able to create in the world, and completely changes their life. And to me, as soon as I read that, I was like, oh, that's what fiat is doing as well to people. That is, it's limiting their ability to be productive in the world, to be who they want to be, and to really be the unique person that everyone is, and to have the life they want to live. And I think that's terrible. And obviously that is why I'm in Bitcoin, is because I want to help people not live in that hell that fiat creates for people.
I'll say this. I do believe I'm a follower of Christ. I have a strong faith. To me, Bitcoin is, again, reorient society. Fiat, in its very existence, to what you're saying, Forrest, multiple commandments are broken of the 10 commandments just by the very existence of fiat itself. Thou shalt not steal, probably being the biggest one, stealing and robbing your time and energy. So because you choose to, this is where, like, Bitcoiners, I'm very guilty of this, so like this, I'll put this on me first, of going down these rabbit holes, conspiracies, and whatever is happening. Some of these things, a lot of these things in life, you can't just pin on one person. Like, I know humans, like, we want to like find like the one person that this is their problem. Like, they did it. It's the government bad, whatever. But I do believe when you choose to drink from the chalice of easy money, just like Adam took the apple and from the serpent and then gave it to Adam. I mean, once you choose the evil, now you get every sin after that. Now you open up the world to, it doesn't have to be. The incentives just align that, A plus B equals C. You're going to have dumber and dumber things happen because now you've chosen, I'm God. I'm smarter than all of you. And I now am going to, have to do all the inputs of the system. Well, good luck. Now you've broken that feedback loop, and everything you get there after that, the whole stream's been polluted. So now good luck. You're a nomad now. Now you've got to go start working and, tilling your food and doing, you had utopia. You had it in the garden, and now you chose, I'm smarter than you, God. I'm going to recreate my own money this time. And now you get now you're damned. Now you got all the consequences after that downstream, and good luck. And that to me is the fight we're truly fighting.
It's also like, it blows my mind. How much money do people need? like
For real.
with like the Trump family, for example. Apparently they got like $10 billion from brokering the sale of TikTok. How much, like
wild.
how much money
Did
do
not
you
know that.
need? Like, what are you doing with this money? Like, it shocks me. Like, even like, okay, I think I get Elon Musk a little bit more because maybe he has a passion of just like building businesses and he's actually creating something of value. But there are other people who like all they do is like what's her name? Nancy Pelosi. How much money do you need? You're not creating anything of value. You're literally just
Zero.
scamming other people.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. You're just scamming people. Like, how shitty of a person do you have to be?
But those people are going to be gone though, because they're not going to have any ability to do that in this new financial system. That's a very fiat thing to be able to extract from people like that. It changes now. Bitcoin changes that. You can't use those fiat tactics in this system. You just can't. They'll get away with it for a while, and they might be able to convert some of that stolen energy and put it into Bitcoin. But it's no longer sustainable where you can just extract from people and win. It totally changes that dynamic.
I think that makes me happy about Bitcoin because when you're paying somebody in Bitcoin, you're actually giving them value. You know, like, I don't feel like I'm scamming somebody. Like, if somebody's charging me dollars for something, I just feel like, oh, you're getting nothing. I'm giving you nothing in exchange for what you're giving me. Like, I'm
But
getting
they can still convert that into Bitcoin though if they wanted to, right?
They can, of course, but most people
Yeah.
aren't, right? Like 99% of people aren't. Like, if I'm, let's say for example, there's a family-owned business and they're struggling and they're asking me for dollars, I can't change their minds, but it just feels like, damn, you guys are going to struggle even more because these dollars are literally worthless. That lack of financial understanding, it changes people's mindsets. Like, it just changes everything because when you so I used to believe like, oh, dollars are scarce. I used to believe I need to save money. I need to protect my money. Now I'm thinking like, I need to get rid of my money ASAP. Get rid of this shit coin. I need to get rid of it because it's dirty. It's nasty. I hate it. I don't want it because it's worthless. It's worth nothing. And I feel like that mindset shift is so important. And there's a lot of people who need to go through that before they, I mean, and Bitcoin teaches them that before they get out of the rat race, they need to understand that, okay, you need to get rid of your dollars. Dollars are literally worthless. You should be in debt. Being in debt is a good thing. Like, borrowing money to buy finite assets is a good thing. But people, like, they can't get away from that mindset. They just can't get out of it.
They also buy shoes with it though instead of assets.
Yes.
That's a problem.
$400 shoes.
There's some pretty nice shoes out there though, guys.
True. But just going off the extraction thing here, like, I'm looking at this article from River. I don't know if you can bring it up here quick, Robin. But this to me is like, what's that?
Yeah, I just share it and I'll bring it up.
It just goes to like, this is extraction to me. So when you're talking about like accepting dollars and paying somebody in dollars, Rajat, it's like, at least if you're doing something for somebody, then you can take that value and convert it into whatever you want to. You're still adding value though, otherwise they wouldn't pay you. But like, this is just straight up extracting from productive people. And like there's been, what's that?
The bad part here is they extract it and they give it to their executives who buy yachts.
Right.
Like, you're taking it from people who needed to pay for groceries and they can't even afford like the basics. You're giving it to some guy who wants to buy a vacation home or a yacht. Oh, sorry. Go ahead with your point.
Well, it was just like JP Morgan after 2020. I think they made a couple of $1 billion worth of income from overdraft charges. So it's like the people who literally don't have money in their bank account, that's who these people are stealing from. Like, that is so sick and evil to me. And the banks here, they're making money off of nothing, of stealing people of their time and energy, and they're profiting from it. And I mean, yeah, they buy yachts, they buy this other stuff, but like, how does this make sense to anybody? Why would banks make $434 billion from Americans, not the world, in 1 year?
It's because people don't think of it this way, right? Like, they don't. This doesn't even cross their mind. It's just normal to them because they're busy working, they're busy watching TV, they're busy being entertained. When I went to Turkey, the tour guides mentioned bread and circuses multiple times. And it really made sense because it makes sense, right? Because Turkey's currency is losing like 80% a year, and they just have to keep people entertained and they have to keep people full.
Yep.
So they don't think about it. This is bread and circuses, right? This is a result of it. People are so busy watching the Super Bowl, they're watching the sports ball game. I don't know if you guys got the reference, but it's like they're so busy just doing the thing that they have to do and not focusing on the real world and how the world is designed to scam them.
I think it's also just not obvious either, right? Like if somebody has a bank account, they think, okay, well, I have a checking account, I have a savings, I'll throw a couple thousand in there, I'll earn 1% a year. I'm actually making money by having a bank account, right? Or I use a credit card and I build up some rewards and then I get to redeem those for something. It's a benefit to me. Meanwhile, the credit card, the debit, everything is charging a fee. They're passing that on to the business. The business is passing it on to the consumer. It's costing you a ton of money, but it's really kind of hidden. And the same with the savings account. If you're earning 1%, they're taking your money, they're reinvesting it, they're earning 2%, right? So you're losing out on what you could be earning. It's all designed in a way to hide the extra fees. Like that 454 billion that you had there, that's all being extracted out of people, and that's all an added cost of living to individuals.
That's why I think like this was the whole point. It's really cool that we also get there because I said the title way before we did the conversation, and it's because when you think about how bad this banking system is actually for the individual, and now there are products like Stretch, there are products that are in the Bitcoin that show people like, hey, you can have 11%. You still get screwed on 11% because you could have 30, but at least you get 11%, and it's a stable income and all of that. You still get screwed, but you get less screwed than from other banks that give you 1% or 4% or 5%. And this is a big thing. And so I think this big capital shift that is coming, or it's already on the way, it's just going to get started. I mean, Stretch is now like what? 8 months old, 7 months old, whatever the duration is that it's now old. Once this is 3-4 years in the market, and people realized, oh, they're not getting liquidated, they keep paying those dividends, and they keep paying those high dividends. I think they will be able to pay 10% around that number for a very long time. Obviously not forever, but for a very long time. And it's established, and it gets credited rating and all of that. There's so much capital. It will be like fascinating to see because it's so much better of a product. And this, to the point of what you guys saying, is the Tradfi system rips people off, and Bitcoin and strategy in particular, and also all the other things, are just showing how bad they really are. And that's what my point was previously. Like, will they fight back? Like, what can they do against that? Like, will there be something? Exactly, because it's a big thing. Like, they're extracting a lot of value, and this Bitcoin and the products in Bitcoin are kind of exposing that.
Well, hopefully they do fight back, because that is the more competition in any field benefits the consumer, that benefits the person, and makes the businesses. It doesn't benefit the businesses to be competitive. Like a business wants a monopoly, right? So because they can extract the most amount of money, they have no competition. They have the most power and leverage in that system. So hopefully the financial TradFis do try to compete against STRC, and that benefits the individuals instead of the businesses. And that's what Bitcoin does, right? That Bitcoin forces the entire financial system to rethink and rebase. It is destined to be the denominator because of that, in my eyes. And if you can't compete against Bitcoin, you got to step out. You got to shut down shop, because eventually you will lose everything if you try to fight it and have no competitive edge to be able to offer any value. You will just lose everything. I got to go though, guys. Top of the hour for me.
See you, Forrest.
Signing off. Thanks everybody.
See you, brother.
There, Forrest.
Great stuff, man. Yeah, and this goes back to what we were saying a minute ago too. Like we read the Marilyn Hoddle piece about the system, and like what that just made me think, where Rob, on what you were saying, and it does tail so perfectly into that. So people can go back and listen, or, look at his Marilyn Hoddle's thing that we read earlier. But this goes back to the what I was saying a little bit ago of like the choosing evil, and part of it is too. There are people like the banks and some of these things. They do believe most people are too stupid to figure out what's going on. Like a lot of people, there are people, again, not to go too deep down these rabbit holes, there's a time and, maybe a different time and day, but yes, there are evil spirits in the world, and they like controlling humans. Let's just say that the Epstein files are a good window into how that works and how that different realm, let's just say that for now, this different realm works, and controlling human beings is the best way to do that. Now, does money really matter for a lot of people? No, not really, because they're quintillionaires and they have endless amounts of printing, but they don't want you to have it, right? Power or wealth, time and energy is encapsulated in those units. So if you think these people are too stupid, or you want to control human beings, what's a great way to do that? It's to F up the currency. It's to withhold currency from them that's theirs rightfully, or whatever it might be. So there is that at play. But at the same time, what I was saying earlier, and I actually did realize I didn't hit the last part of it, which is because you choose the fiat currency, which humans have to know, they have to know they're being swindled, basically. Like humans have to voluntarily choose to be swindled. And this is part of the game that we can talk about a different day.
Right.
But
yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
and you have to. You cannot be tricked into your own fate, in essence. Like you have to willfully choose it. Might not always be super obvious, but the whole point is the incentives of the system guarantee, when you're choosing fiat currencies, that dumber and dumber things will happen. It's not always some guy in an ivory tower somewhere saying, oh, this is what's happening. It's Klaus Schwab somewhere. Like he's a boogeyman. Is he a great actor? Probably not. But like, it's not one guy just doing it. The incentives of the system are such that the banks, and I think it was Rajat or someone saying earlier, like how much is enough? Like why do the Trumps keep stacking cash? Like what are you doing with it at this point? Well, in a fiat system, when there's abundant currency, then the status becomes how many currency units do I have? But in a Bitcoin system, when there's finite, and Elon Musk just talked about this, where we have an energy money, it's probably Bitcoin. We might not have money at all. Well, why is that? It's because when you're measuring in the measuring stick that doesn't move, the Bitcoin, then the wealth becomes your relationships, the things around you. When you're not paying for anything around you because energy and everything is so abundant, you're not counting units anymore. That's not your status indicator. It's now, what's my network? What's my community? What's my family? How many kids do I have? It becomes, the whole talk we've had today is reorienting society. And when you choose the fiat government currency, you now get every bad downstream effect. You now chose, hey, I'm dumb things, evil things are going to happen to me endlessly because we went the wrong direction right at the top of the hill. It's like running the race, but you chose the wrong course. Well, you're never going to get to the finish line because you chose the wrong course. As soon as you got off the finish line, you went the other direction. Everyone else was going another way. And that's where we find ourselves.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that because, like I said, I was just on a little friends trip on the weekend, and there, of course, you have a couple beers or you're a little bit hungover, you're chatting around the circle, and what's always the topic? It's always money. It's savings, and that what I found most interesting is like there was two girls and one guy talking about money, and how much interest they paid and how much they've got swindled in this way, kind of what Brandon was talking about there. And they're kind of talking like, why were we never taught this? Why did the schools never teach us about money? And I just, I was trying to do my best to stay out of it because where that would lead for me. So I just kind of listened for a while, and I said, if people knew how the system works, the system would be over tomorrow. That's just the reality. And it was Henry Ford, I think, that said it 100 years ago. He basically said, like, if people understood the banking system, there'd be riots by the morning. And that's literally what it is. If people understood how money worked and how to manage debt properly and how to take some debt out of a higher paying interest and put it into a lower paying interest and all this stuff, the whole game is designed to keep people in the dark so they just continuously get tricked by it. And that's the extraction. They're extracting value without providing any value. It's all just smoke and mirrors tricks that they benefited from for a long time. And Bitcoin, to me, flips the table on that whole thing.
And I think Wer hoeft die Vloem? I have no clue how to pronounce that one. Says it really nicely. He says, the devil needs your permission to do his work on you. I mean, I read that and I loved it so much because it's we always say like, oh, the system is so evil. This is so bad. There's always so much complaining. But if you actually pay attention and actually like see what's going on, you see that you have a lot of options. You can opt out of most systems that are evil. Most systems, you're like, I'm good to go. Like, I'm going somewhere else. Even people say like, oh, but taxes and this and that. Move. There are places where you pay less taxes. You can have a setup where you pay almost no taxes. So it's like, no matter what you complain about, they are most likely, it's not 100%, but most likely there's some situation where you can get out of it if you spend the energy not in complaining about it, but in actually solving for that. And if you solve it for yourself, chances are you might actually be able to solve it for others and get way more freedom through that. But that's a whole nother thing. But I love that because it flips the responsibility away from, oh, the system is evil, this is evil, it's wrong, to like, hey, there's a solution. And that's why I also like, even though like I think the banking system is very evil and all of those, but I like actually spending more time on going over with individuals why they need Bitcoin and not as much time on like, here, the banking system is evil. You have to show it that it's evil and have to show like what's wrong with it. But the most time should always be spent on like, what is the solution? Like, what can we do against it? And where are we actually going? So I love that. I love that comment. Just want to point it out because it's very true.
So good. Well, we could go down these rabbit holes for hours. That's for sure. And we'll have to dive more into this because this is the incentives of the system are structured this way, and we're not going to be out of this fight for a little while. So we're going to have time to talk about it and fight about it, debate it.
Yeah, I just want to say shout out to the chat today. There's some really good comments in there. I really hope that at some point in the future we can have kind of everybody in one spot. That's kind of our end goal here, is to have everybody on one channel, so we're not in 6 different containers. So just in case people haven't done it yet, have we even shared this yet?
Last week, I think we did once. Yeah.
And there was actually quite a few people who jumped over there. Yeah, 200 people. Love that.
Wow.
We are soon at 200 subscribers, which is awesome. So if you guys, I've put it already in my chat. I can put it again. Just like go to youtube.com/@BTC Mastermind. It's now we're getting so popular that if you search it, it also pops up at like within the first 5 things that pop up. Before you had to scroll like a lot. But yeah, like this is where it's will be 100%. Like streamed all the time, and I think long term we'll probably move everything to there, but it will take some time for people to like see this channel and put it out. We are also working on the background on clips and all of that. This will help just the discovery of the channel and keep on developing in maybe also the graphics, because this is just like me spending some time in AI and putting everything together. And
good. I'm not gonna lie.
You like it?
Really cool. Yeah, I like it. It's cool.
Then I might not change it. Yeah, that's the only thing. Like, who voted Robin in the middle? That was my AI.
We did. We gave him the power to do this stuff, and he's been killing it. So shout out to Robin for doing all this stuff in the background. Well, I mean, the 5 of us are pretty busy fellas, both with family and what we're trying to do here. And it would be almost impossible for us to do this without somebody kind of taking the reins of things and just having things ready to go. So I would have voted Robin to be the middle guy myself, because he's been killing it behind the scenes.
I didn't want to be the middle guy.
No. But I just want to follow up with one last thing here on this conversation, because, you know, we talked about needing permission, or you voluntarily going into the system and just playing by the rules because it's easier to do, it's comfortable. I still think without Bitcoin, even if you chose to opt out and moved, or, you know, took the harder path, I still think that you would have been caught. And the thing for me about Bitcoin is it just gives you the ability to speak freely. it gives you the ability to opt out of that system that I don't think anything else allows for. And, you know, we talk about stretch all the time. It's a pretty powerful thing, but again, Bitcoiners are the biggest beneficiaries of that because it's consistent buy pressure. It's demand, consistent demand in a good way. But you can't take stretch across a border and cash that out on the other side of it. So in this world of uncertainty, I think that the Bitcoin for me is the real FU here. Stretch is cool, yeah. But even Robin mentioned it. You're trading 11.5% for what, 30, 40, 50, 500? We have no idea how high Bitcoin's going to go. Stretch is kind of like, to me, having a job where you have a cap on how much you can make. Bitcoin's like, you hitch your ride to that thing, who knows where it goes to. It could fail, but it could also go to the moon. So it's a good idea to have a little bit of both maybe in the meantime while you're kind of sorting this out. But Bitcoin is the asset that you want. It's the asset that frees you from that system. And I don't think there's anything more powerful overall than having the underlying asset, which is 12 words in your head and just being able to do whatever you want, say whatever you want, and not have to fear about somebody taking your life. Because even in that world, the only way to ensure that somebody doesn't get those 12 words from your head is to take your life, which is also very powerful.
And I want to iterate that point from like the difference between 10 and 30%. I'm not 100% sure about the numbers now. I make it out of the top of my head. I did the math like about 2 weeks ago or so. Between 10 and 30% CAGR over 10 years, if you put 100K in, the difference is you getting, I think it was like 250,000 versus you getting like 2.5 million or something like that. So it's not over 10 years, having the difference between 10 or 30% is a lot of money. Like, it's not a little bit. It's not like, oh yeah, I get a little bit extra pushes. Like, instead of 250, I get like 300,000. It's like a massive load of money between getting 10% and getting 30% a year. Like it's a completely different game. And as Joe said, who says it's 30%? Maybe it's 40, maybe it's 50. Because who knows where inflation is going? Because the one thing with stretch is you're in the US dollar denomination. They keep it at 100, but the 100 doesn't stay 100. That's the main thing.
That even applies to gold. I know Jor has seen this before, but have you guys seen the supply with gold versus Bitcoin? If you
like
have
projections based on the inflation,
based on like the 2% growth rate.
Oh yeah, that's nuts. Yeah,
like
show that.
We see like we all think that, oh, gold is scarce. We think that Robin, do you mind sharing my screen? So we think that gold is scarce. We think that this is the best asset in the world. It's been around for thousands of years. But like, if you, so what I guess a little bit of what Robin was saying, if you just hold on to dollars, eventually those dollars are just going to melt, and they're going to be worth less than whatever you paid for them. So the values is going to keep dropping and dropping. But it's the same thing with gold. It's just that gold does it slower, right? So let's say, for example, if you held 20% of the total supply of gold, and let's say the total supply of gold was 100 ounces in total, that's all that exists. The supply of gold keeps increasing by 2% per year. So after 35 years, you can see, after 35 years, your percentage holding of the gold supply has halved. It's gone down by half because the supply of gold has doubled after 35 years. After 100 years, I mean, you might be thinking, oh, this doesn't matter to me because I don't plan to live for another 100 years and hold on to my gold. The point is, let's say, for example, if you want to pass it down to your kids, you'd be passing down 2.7% of the total supply of gold. You went from 20% to 2.7%. And then another 100 years, so let's say you want to make this a generational wealth portfolio, you went from having 20% of the total supply of gold all the way down to 0.3%. Just because people are finding more and more gold. Like they're just extracting value from your portfolio essentially, and they're giving it to themselves. That's what this is, right? And if this is very similar to fiat in the fact that the supply of gold can be increased. Of course, it's a much slower increase in supply, but the point here is that the supply can be increased. And no matter how much gold you have 20% today, even if you had 100% of it today, eventually your 100% goes all the way down to 1.9%. That's crazy to me.
Wow. I mean, Saylor talks about this all the time, but he mixes it with 10 other analogies in the same 2 minutes there. But he says like it's 60-year lifespan at 2%. And I mean, the crazy thing is like somebody decides that there's a 2% inflation, like some entity out there says, hey, I mean, it also based on demand, but that's the other thing too, is like if there was enough demand for gold, that inflation might even go higher, right? Like who's writing the rules to say that it's 2% forever? If everybody wants gold, we could just go find more gold, and that goes to 3% or 4%, and then it turns into 30 years instead. But
that's crazy. I've never I never realized that. Roger, thank you so much for showing me that. That actually is a really good argument against gold. Like that, I've never heard that, and I've listened to listening to gold versus Bitcoin debates was my orange pilling. Like Peter Schiff, Eric Forhers, like even later, but I was already was orange pilled. Listening to Michael Saylor against like the Frank Giostra kind of guy. This is like this is really cool, and for me also very entertaining. By the way, I would love Rashad versus Peter Schiff. I think this would be this could be very fun. To see that debate, but like that's a freaking awesome argument. Like I've never done the math on that, but that's like 100 years, 200 years going down. This is like if you really want to build generational wealth, like Bitcoin is the only option.
Yeah, gold. Like no gold bug is ever going to tell you this. I've never heard a gold bug talking about this. They've never said, oh, yeah, the supply of gold only goes up by 1.7%. People just assume, oh, the amount of gold that we have is what we have. But over time, we're getting better at finding gold. Like in the last, I don't know if you guys know about this, but in the last 75 years, we found 2/3 of the gold that ever existed. So the thousands of years before that, only 33% of the gold was mined. In the last 75 years, we found 2/3 of it. That just means like we're getting better at finding gold. So even if you have gold, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the inflation rate is more than 0, you are eventually going to get screwed.
Now imagine AI and robotics in finding gold and space travel like that. Like that it will completely like this.
Sorry, Robert. I would say Robert Kiyosaki, they just found a massive gold mine. They just took public because of AI. They 3D mapped the underground, and like a mine from like the 49er days, whatever, like in 1849, they missed the vein, of course, by like, 3 yards or something like that. And it's like one of the biggest in history in Utah or Nevada or something like that. So just in the last year or two, to your point.
Who would have predicted that?
Yeah. Who could have seen that coming?
Nobody knows. Yeah. Nobody knows where the gold is. Nobody has any idea. We just know that we have this amount of gold. We have like it could double next year for all we know. Right? Like Elon Musk could
or triple.
Exactly. He could like Elon Musk could scale up his Tesla or SpaceX, and they could go into space and they can bring gold back. And there's going to be enough people who are willing to, just like the dollar, right? The dollar is going to 0. People can see it if they Google it, but they don't want to. Same thing happens with gold. Like the people who are hoarding gold in their safes, they're just exit liquidity. That's it.
It is wild because it's like in no real shape. I mean, the only thing I can see is like, again, if an asteroid hits the Earth and like we're just all, whatever, 95% of us are gone, and like you're just like in a local tribe, like me, okay, gold and silver could work, just like local, you got the gold, okay, I know you have it, Yapstones style, maybe, something like that. Like, okay, sure. But like, if that's your base case, then okay, like that's sure, great. But I would imagine we're probably gonna have global society, global community. And there's only one way. There's 2 types of money. It's physical tokens or it's a ledger. And you better have a ledger that no one can F with. And that's the only option for global community, period. There's 0 way around that.
And when you think about like the inheritance side of this too, like you can actually take the private keys and you can put it into a private trust, and you can set a time lock on that. So you don't really have to trust anybody, any person withholding the gold or storing it somewhere. But like, just imagine a family out there who had this generational wealth. Let's call it $1 billion, and you wanted to keep it in something. I know it's pretty good diversified in different parts, but you're still, when you pass on, you have no ability to control what happens after that. With Bitcoin, you do. You can actually program that money to a certain block height in time, and because of how Bitcoin works, you can reliably know that that's actually going to play out. But if you had $1 billion worth of gold that you're protecting, and all of a sudden the town knows that you died, where do you think everybody's going to go loot your house because it's full of $1 billion worth of gold? How do you protect that? You need tanks and guns and weapons. But with Bitcoin, you don't need that. You just need to be able to disperse it in different parts. And people think that the inability to touch Bitcoin is a problem. It's actually its superpower in that way, because no matter how big your gun is, you can't take my Bitcoin because it's in many different parts of the world here, and taking me out does nothing. So with gold, again, it's your gold until somebody more powerful comes along and takes it from you. With Bitcoin, nobody has the ability to do that, no matter how big their gun is.
That was like their goal. That's how they funded their governments in ancient times. They funded governments by taking money from other civilizations. They took them down, they killed them, and they funded their government with their gold.
Yep.
Like that's how they made profit. That's how like the ancient leaders made, like that's how they remained in power. That's one of the problems with gold. Like if I see it, I can take it. If you're trying to go through a border with gold and the TSA agent sees it, it's theirs, and they're not going to let you get through with it.
You can't even take a bottle of shampoo through TSA.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Try
there's
taking a bag of gold.
Yeah. Somebody actually got caught in on Air India with a kilogram of gold shoved up their butt.
I saw that. That's so like that's crazy.
Wasn't it a doctor or something?
I don't know who it was. It was just it's really crazy to me that they had to shove it up. Like you could have learned about Bitcoin and you didn't have to go through that pain.
Old lessons die hard. Old habits die hard, boys.
Unless it's a cold card queue. That wouldn't.
You could have memorized the words. I would spend like a few days just memorizing the words if I had to, right? Instead of having to do that.
Oh man, didn't Do Kwon? Who was that got called the airport with the ledger up his yin yang?
Yeah, I think it was Do Kwon.
Wait. There is a guy with a ledger like
3 or 4 years ago, right?
Wait, I've never heard about that story. That's crazy.
It was Do Kwon, the guy who set up Terra Luna.
Yeah.
Wow.
What, was he actually doing it or as a joke?
He had it there.
No, I think wasn't he on the run? Wasn't it after things? He was like on the run because Terra Luna collapsed. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, it was after the collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's a really great comment here from the Gold Eagle. Not only that, then they sent $20. Not only that, who gets the custody of? Oh, I guess they mean who gets to hold the gold if there's like a tokenized gold, right? Like what Peter Schiff says all the time. Oh, tokenized gold, that's the solution. Right. Who holds it? Who holds the gold?
Right.
Who
Just
controls
recreating
it? Right?
the wheel. Yeah. Like what are we doing?
You like the U.S. dollar is tokenized gold.
Right.
It failed as like that's why gold is. That's why fiat is around. It's because gold failed as money. People just don't get that.
Like, just the circular logic is just wild. It's
That's the thing too. Is like I really think that gold bugs have done a major disservice to Bitcoin in the even Bitcoiners themselves. Like we spend a lot of time comparing Bitcoin and gold, but gold's not even close to what Bitcoin is. Like there's actual zero properties or characteristics of gold that even comes close to Bitcoin. I think Bitcoiners should be thinking more about land, digital land versus physical land, because they have the closest similarities to me, except you can use Bitcoin to buy coffee. You can send Bitcoin. You can't send a piece of land. You can take Bitcoin across a border. But in terms of like actual characteristics, if you had capital to allocate, I think that land and Bitcoin's the closest thing that we have to it. But gold's just like, it doesn't even make sense to me. And the other thing too is like, even if you were somebody who said, okay, there's gold and Bitcoin, and those are kind of like the two things. And if you said the market cap should be about equal, if gold's equal in value, I think the price of Bitcoin would be like something like $2 million today. So the fact that it's like going from 69 to 75 and down and everybody's complaining, it's like you're still getting Bitcoin at a 99% discount. And that's if Bitcoin and gold were even, which I have argued this many times, but I think Bitcoin is infinitely superior to gold in every aspect. So it's just like, I don't know. It's almost a waste of time comparing it to gold, and gold bugs hate hearing that, but it's, the more time you spend in Bitcoin, you realize that.
Yeah, I completely
it's like
agree.
Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, I think Bitcoin and land are like yin and yang. Like you have
Yeah,
your physical, and then you have your digital. Like you can go anywhere. You can use your Bitcoin to buy land. You can sell your Bitcoin for land, but you can't. Like you need a place to live, right? You need a house, but you can buy that land anywhere. So I don't know if the value should be the same. I think the value should be much less because there's a lot of land out there that we just don't live on.
true.
I think there's a lot more land than we think. There was actually somebody who, I don't remember who it was, but he basically made a comparison where 1 Bitcoin is the equivalent of like 1,700 acres of land. So
Yeah.
I think like you could actually tie arable land to Bitcoin, and then there could be a fixed exchange rate. I feel like that'd be really cool.
Real estate will crash so hard. Like I have I have a couple of points on that. Like I just talked about with a guest, like a 20-minute rant on that. The first one is obviously Bitcoin will suck the financial energy out of real estate, where like investors no longer put money in real estate where they get 4% yield or something like that. They just put it in Bitcoin. Like it's a no-brainer in mind with no maintenance and all of that. I think we covered that well. But then also think about AI and robotics. You will be able to say like, hey, ChatGPT, build me that building. Like you will actually be able to say that, and robots and 3D printing and all of that, they will actually make your house, and they just like build that, and no human has to like, imagine how much cheaper it is to build a home once there's no human labor needed to build a home. It will completely crash how much a house costs for the average person. It's so unbelievable for me. Like real estate, housing will be super affordable, super fast to get, and compared to Bitcoin, it will be a joke. It will be a joke to see the Bitcoin at a $2 trillion market cap and real estate at like, I don't know, $370 trillion market.
The average house, the average cost of a house is going to be 200,000 sats.
Yeah.
That's math. Do some math on the average house based on houses in the world versus total number of sats is 1 million, and then you consider all there is. But yeah, I agree, Robin. Like real estate, yes, but you can't 3D print land, is what I was trying to say. Like
the land
property, farmland, things like that. That's what I find most comparable to Bitcoin is like scarce real estate.
Yeah, but there's also a difference because there's like the scarce real estate, but I think there's a lot of land. Like we have so much more space to populate the earth. Like there's so much more space there. But yeah, you're right, because everyone wants to live like city center, like beachfront property, right at the lake, like nice views and all of like there's like if you look at how. Yeah, like if you look at how Earth is populated, it's crazy to think about. Like there's like this. Do you know those maps where there's things popping out?
Oh yeah.
If there's a lot of people living there, and like it's very flat if there are no people living there, and it's all like flat land, and then there's like a big thing popping out. There's this flat land, and this thing. Like it's very, very horrible. Centralized how humans are orientating themselves where they live.
And we can concentrate it even more if we want to, because we can keep building higher. Yeah. And we can probably, like at some point, people will probably start building into the ground, right? Like you'll have you'll have underground condos.
Well, there already are. Like I lived in a basement suite I had a basement suite in my rental house.
No, I mean like 30 feet, 30 stories into the ground.
Oh God. Could you imagine?
I guarantee you that's going to happen. At some point, I guarantee you that's going to happen. Guarantee it.
But I think if we continued in fiat system, I agree that would happen. I don't think that's going to be the case. I agree with Robin. I think that real estate's going to be much more affordable once it moves away from a store of value and it becomes cheaper and cheaper. And if you're looking at the world through a Bitcoin lens, it is just going to keep getting cheaper. But in fiat, I do agree that, if things just kept going up forever and we had no other alternative, people would definitely be building into the ground.
Yeah.
Awesome. Then
digging their own graves.
Compounds. The wealthy are going to have like these massive compounds, while like the poor are going to be living in these shoebox containers under the Earth's crust. Insane.
like a coffin.
Yeah. 30
it's
on top of it. That's crazy.
crazy.
30 layered on top. Oh my God. That's scary.
Might be the bunker, like someone call it the bunker, Rashad. That's really cool. I think how do we end this? All good things have to end at some point. It was really cool. I think this was our longest live stream yet. I think last week it was the longest so far with 1 hour and 40 minutes, and now it's like over 2 hours already. So thank you so much, guys, for doing that. We have our end routine. If you guys have still some time where we have a nugget at the end. Maybe Rashad, I think you haven't been there with our end routine last time. Maybe you have a nugget of information for us, some small tip for the viewers. Last week I brought up my cool measuring stick for the air. Do you have something like that?
I think it's as I get older, I get more attracted to the idea of living your life, enjoying your life, mini vacations, because you don't know when your life is going to be over. You have no idea how long you're going to live, right? And I think it's important to be able to learn how to. I think it's important to be able to learn how to enjoy your life, while at the same time being able to stack Bitcoin. If you have to sacrifice some Bitcoin to enjoy your life, I think it's worth it. I don't know if most people are doing that. Like I had a client who was in their 40s. I think the husband was like 42, the wife was like 41, and they had like $1.5 million saved. They had a good amount of money saved, and they'd never gone on vacation. And they told me in the call that they want to wait until they're 65, until they can retire to go on vacation, because they just assumed that's the age that we have to retire at. I told them, don't think of it that way. Don't think of it like, okay, I need to wait until this point to retire. I need to work until the government says that I don't have to work anymore. Stop listening to what the government tells you to do. They don't have your best interests in mind. Focus on like enjoying your time together. You have kids. You guys are married. You have a good income. Take vacations. Like they were just getting paid out on their vacations too. They weren't even like even their 3-4 weeks of vacations every year. They weren't even taking them. They were just getting paid out because they were thinking we don't have enough money. But I think that's like that culture where I'm Indian. They were Indian as well. And I think it's just like we never feel like we have enough. We always feel like we need more money because it's just that insecurity. It's just trying to show other people that you have what you have. And like one of their ideas was that I want to buy a house that has 6 bedrooms so that every year when my family comes from India, they can all live with us. But you're going to spend like 10 times more on this house, or not that much, like double on this house, just so that these people can stay with you for 3 weeks, pay for a hotel. It makes no sense. Like you're spending double the mortgage, you're working way longer, and you're not enjoying your life just so that you can impress your family by showing them that you have a big house. And like after that call, completely changed their minds. I think they completely thought like we're not gonna wait. We're gonna go. They didn't email me back, but it seemed like they were just like talking to each other more, and they were just saying, "Hey, we should go on vacation." Like it seemed like they had that communication going where maybe they did change their mind, but I don't know for sure. I mean, just in general though, for the audience, enjoy your life. Don't forget to enjoy your life.
And I think there's a point where if you get more money, there's no more happiness coming. Like there's a point where happiness goes up with money, but then there's a point where actually happiness either stagnates or might actually go down. But yeah, it was a really cool session. Thanks so much for everyone joining. Just to remind people, we already almost are at 200, so like 2 more people we need today. I think we started the stream at like 180 or so, and so like now we are almost at 200. So yeah, thanks guys for being here. This will be our home for having the whole live stream hosted long term, in probably like, I don't know, 2 months or so. It will be the latest point we switch. And so yeah, thanks, and we'll be back next week, same time.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks, everybody.